right, terrific. Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is the July 14, 2020 meeting of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission for the Town of Fairfield. We have a number of items on our agenda today, including for our executive session as well as public hearing. For the benefit of both my fellow commissioners as well as the applicants and members of the public, I just want to go through a couple of things that procedurally for our meeting today, so that people understand why things are happening the way they are and what our intentions are. We are going to try to prioritize the commissioners on the top of the grid so that we can all see each other. I would ask that commissioners, if you would like to be recognized, to please try to raise your hand, wave at me. I'll be keeping my eye on the grid. You can also use the raise your hand feature in the system, which Emmeline will be seeing. We are typically governed by a curfew when we have our regular meetings at 7:30 p.m., our curfew of 11 p.m. Even though we are starting earlier today at 4:30, we're going to stick to a similar time frame. I know it's 4:30, I haven't had dinner. By the time 8 o'clock rolls around, we're all going to be ready for this to be concluded. So if we're not done by 8 p.m., we will adjourn the meeting. To that end, we do have an application on for public hearing tonight, the Beach Road application, which the applicant may very well finish their presentation today. We will, in that case, open public comment. Any members of the public that wish to be heard today may do so. But in any event, we will adjourn that application, that hearing, until September 15th. Our next, not next, but our regularly scheduled meeting for September 15th. And any member of the public who wishes to reserve their comments on that application may do so and can attend, can submit written material up until that time, or can attend the meeting on September 15th and participate at that time, following which the applicant will then have their rebuttal and, before we close the public hearing on that particular application. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that landscape. This meeting is also being recorded so that folks can, if they wish, go back and listen to this. Even if you weren't here, if somebody is absent, they can get the recording and get up to speed in order to participate in September's public hearing. I can go over some other issues about that public hearing, just in terms of the presenters and holding questions and so forth when we get there. And I think that's it for now before we get into our agenda. Mr. Wendt, did I miss anything?
Nope, I think you're good. There's maybe reiterate a couple things when you get to the public hearing, and I have one thing when we get to the public hearing, but I think we're good for now. Okay,
great, thank you. All right, so the first item on our agenda is under Bills and Communications. It's 333 Umpqua Road, request of Attorney Ray Rizzio to modify the exterior building materials for a portion of the facade from clapper to brick in the Design Residential District.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you have the materials for this, the letter that was submitted. I don't have a whole lot to say other than the very front module of the building is proposed to be redone in brick. It's under construction now. They're preparing that. rather than having one, the entirety of I believe I sent you the images. I hope you've had a chance to look at them. We can pull them up if you need them, but I don't have anything beyond that unless there's any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Could I have a motion on this item?
Just remember to unmute yourself if you'd like to start with the motion.
Stephen Levy, I move to approve.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Levy.
Tommy Noonan, second.
And thank you, Commissioner Noonan. That's actually very helpful to identify yourself so that I can get I like that. That's good. Excellent. So motion to approve by Commissioner Levy and second by Commissioner Noonan. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Commissioner Levy, you want to go first?
I think it looks better.
Very good. Commissioner Noonan?
I concur.
All right. Very good. Anyone else have any comments on this?
Commissioner Francis?
Yes. Commissioner Francis.
I think it's very attractive, and I wonder if they have room for shutters or if if the windows are too close. Is Attorney Rizzio there?
Well, we can't hear from them. We can, we can.
It's very attractive.
Yeah.
It has the look of an old factory even. You know, very, very Fairfield.
Okay. There can be a
little more residential with shutters. That's why I asked, but it's lovely. It's definitely an improvement.
Okay. We could certainly pass on that message. I think there are representatives of the development team listening, so they heard what you said.
Okay, very good. Any other members of the commission have any comments or questions on this application? No?
Everybody agree?
Commissioner Braun? Wave your hand if you want to speak, please. Oh, yes. Now you are muted right now. Now you're unmuted.
I was not here when this was originally approved, and I'm wondering, I just looked online, it looked like it was clapboard with like a porch and rocking chairs. It was white. Is that what it was originally planned to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the entirety of the building was white clapboard. And the majority of the building will remain white clapboard. It's just this front piece they're looking to set off a little different fashion. It still has the wraparound porch is still part of the plan.
Jim, do you want me to show that?
I didn't see a porch on the new drawing. It looks like just a brick monolith to me.
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to find it.
Okay, Emmeline can pull it up if you bear with us for a minute.
I'm having trouble finding it on the zoning.
All right, stand by. We'll see if we can't share the screen.
Yeah, hold on one second.
It would be under pending applications, right?
I sent, it was earlier today, I sent a revised agenda with new tabs, but hopefully we'll be able to share the screen for a second.
Oh, I see it now, yeah.
Hold on, I'm the presenter now, so I'm just gonna bring it up real quick. Let's see. Hold on. Oops. Let me see. Here it is. Can you see it?
No,
not yet.
Yeah, I mean, I found it on.
Okay. Here's the front.
it's not. We're not seeing it on our screens.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
We're just seeing a black image.
Does that work?
There it is.
There you go. Okay. So that what is now being shown in the shared screen is the proposed facade in the current application to to change it to this.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that Commissioner Braun was asking to see also a rendering of what the original approved application look like?
I don't have that on a screen to share. It was basically the exact same thing, except instead of brick, it was white clapboard, but the porch was the same.
So the only
That's my
reason,
recollection as well.
the only reason to change it is aesthetics, because I have different aesthetics. I like the clapboard much better. It looks more New England, more Fairfield. The brick reminds me of something in Maryland where everything is made out of brick. But-
Again, if you scroll to the second right there, stop for a second, Emily, if you can go back one page.
Yep, sorry. Here we go.
If you go back one page.
Yep, you got
So
it?
it's a very large, long building, and the only piece that they're looking to change to brick is the piece that I've got clouded there. So 90% of the building will still be clapboard.
Well, yeah, I hear you. It's just a matter of, everybody has their own sense of taste. I think the clapboard should be in the front, the brick should be in the back, but that's just my own sense of taste, so. And I like shutters. If shutters could be added, it would look a lot better, because it's all very flat. I like what Meg said about shutters.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think that some window treatment would be nice. I don't know that I necessarily care for the the sort of more industrial converted factory look. But nonetheless, I mean, I do support the distinction between the different segments of the building, particularly at the streetscape, section, where as you're walking by or the like, you'll see some distinction between, this front area and the back area. But I don't know that I don't have a real objection to the brick.
This is visible from the road, or is it set back? It's next to Mosswood, right?
Correct. That is the front, which is the streetscape. That is visible from the street. That's what you walk past.
But it's back a couple hundred feet.
So I think that if the Commissioner Levy, I'm getting some feedback. Commissioner Levy's motion, if he would like to modify that to an approval with either a suggestion or a condition of approval that they seek to provide some window treatment or the like, he can do so.
I would amend to a suggestion by some members of the commission that the window treatments be added. Personally, I think adding shutters to this many windows would make it very fussy and be too much. So, but if we simply want to convey the suggestion that some commissioners feel that shutters and window treatments would be an improvement, I would amend it to that suggestion.
Okay. Commissioner Noonan, do you agree with that?
That's fine, yeah, I don't like the idea of a condition, but the suggestion is fair.
Okay. All right. So, I think that definitely takes a step in the direction that Commissioner Francis and Commissioner Braun were leaning. I support that as well. Any other commissioners? Maybe Emmeline, if you can take it off screen share so that I can see people again. Thanks. Yes, Commissioner Corcoran.
Muted.
You're muted, Commissioner Corcoran. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I agree with Steve that maybe the shutters are too much. I like the cleaner look.
you like the idea of suggesting window treatments if they can find something that makes it, that improves the visual.
I'm okay with suggesting it. I don't want to require it.
Very good. Anyone else? Any other commissioners have any comments on this? Any questions? Okay. We ready to vote? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right, so the application is approved unanimously with a suggestion concerning the window treatments. Thank you. Next item is new app to recommend a public hearing. A zoning regulation amendment application of Primrose Development LLC to amend section 10 of the zoning regulations.
Yeah, Jim Went again for the record, Mr. Chairman. This is just simply a recommendation that we've received this application to set it aside for a future hearing date. We had a hearing on this, a prior application to this a few months ago that was withdrawn, having to do with development on a piece on Upper Park Avenue. There's a revision. They've retooled the amendment based on some of the discussion that was had at that previous hearing, and we'll set it aside for future hearing, likely sometime after September 15th. And we will get you the copies and post it, but this is just kind of a first notice that we have it for future hearing consideration.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Can I have a motion on this?
Tommy Noonan, move to public hearing.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Noonan and seconded by Commissioner Brayman. Yes? Yes, thank you. All right, anybody have any other questions or concerns about this item? No? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of moving to public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so this item is moved to public hearing unanimously. Next is old business, zoning regulation amendment, application of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission to amend section 2.12 flood management and 32.0 flood protection of the Fairfield zoning regulations. The purpose of the amendments are to update the regulations pursuant to the standards of the National Flood Insurance Program. We had a public hearing on June 23rd, 2020. Mr. Wendt?
Mr. Chairman, I would, at this point, recommend tabling this matter. I know we've got a lot of folks anxious to proceed to the public hearing. This is not super time sensitive, although we do want to complete this. We are having some additional dialogue with some members of the Flood and Erosion Control Board that we heard from at the last hearing, and we'd like a little bit more time to have some additional dialogue in that regard, and we think that would benefit this proposal, so it's our recommendation to table it at this time.
Okay, very good. I'm supportive of that as well. Would anyone care to make a motion? Yes, Commissioner Noonan? Move to table? Very good. Motion to table by Commissioner Noonan.
I'll second Commissioner Levy.
Thank you, Commissioner Levy. Anyone have any comments or questions on the motion to table? We just got these revisions. I'll say a few words. I mean, we just got the sort of red line with some comments and so forth. I think there's a fair amount of material here to, to further digest, and coupled with, the continuing dialogue with the Flood Erosion Control Board and the others who had some comments. I think really council's in favor of us taking a little bit more time here. Anyone else? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion to table is approved unanimously. Next is the zoning compliance coastal site plan. We have 110 Berwick Avenue, 145 Fairchild Avenue, coastal site plan application of Berwick Fairchild Associates LLC pertaining to the construction of two-family dwellings.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Jim Wendt again for the record. This property, some of you may remember, at 110 Berwick and 145 Fairchild Avenue was the subject of a 33-unit 8-30G affordable housing application, which was denied back in 2014. The Berwick lot was improved by a two-family house built in 1960. The Fairchild lot was occupied by a structure used as a fraternal organization. Both structures have recently been demolished. The applicant proposes to construct two new two-family dwellings, which are compliant with the B-zone regulations, and they will be elevated on open foundations to comply with the National Flood Insurance Program requirements. Although these are two separate parcels, a common driveway access is proposed from Berwick, so they would share a driveway for a unified 4-unit development, but it will be two-family dwellings, one on each particular parcel. A coastal site plan report was included and identifies the coastal resources on and adjacent to this site. It is our opinion that the plan is consistent with the relevant coastal resource management policies. The main concern is compliance with the elevation standards of the National Flood Insurance Program, which this plan addresses. We also have a certification from the applicant's engineer that will be a zero rise in flood elevations as a result of this proposal. We believe it to be compliant with the B-zone standards and consistent with the coastal management applicable policies, so we therefore recommend its approval.
Very good. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion on this item?
Tommy Noonan, move to approve.
Stephen Levy,
Commissioner
second.
Noonan. Thank you. Motion to approve by Commissioner Noonan and a second by Commissioner Levy. Thank you. Commissioner Noonan? Comments?
Staff comments and its compliance, I would grant the application.
Okay. Commissioner Levy?
I agree.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other comments? I agree. You know, the CAM report indicates that the environmental impacts are minimized and that it complies with all the policies. And as Mr. Wendt stated, it complies with our regulations otherwise. I don't see any basis for denial, and would encourage everyone to approve it.
I have a question.
Commissioner Braun.
I'm looking at this I have the aerial view from your plans. I'm looking at it in relation to that affordable housing development that's at the end of Fairchild, I guess. Can somebody answer? First of all, are there any other approvals that are needed, or if we approve this coastal site review, does that mean they can start building, or is there some other permit they're going to need to do as well?
Well, they need to apply for a building permit, but this is the last administrative, this is the only administrative approval they need to proceed with their over-the-counter building permit.
Okay, so where is the access? The common driveway, is that coming from Berwick or Fairchild?
Berwick.
It must be coming from Berwick.
Yes, Berwick.
Yes.
And the buildings will, I see. So that affordable housing development at the end of Fairchild goes in and out on Fairchild only, and these two houses will only come in through Berwick. So that will not interfere, because I've heard about all the flash flooding and problems with that back when, a couple of years ago, when another development was proposed. This would not affect traffic leaving that big housing apartment building down at the end of Fairchild, I'm assuming, right?
That's correct.
So it's two-family houses.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we ready to vote? Commissioner Francis, I'm not sure if you're indicating? No? Okay.
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay, very good. Sorry. I just, it's a little touch and go because sometimes the screens freeze and sometimes people are trying to speak when they're on mute. And, then we get to the ship sails. We take the vote, the matters, and then it's like, well, I was trying to say something. So sorry for being, more cautious. All right, so the motion on the table is to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so the application is approved unanimously. The next item is 220 Carter Henry Drive. That's a zoning compliance application of Summit RR1 LLC to establish an indoor recreational facility, fitness training in a portion of an existing building in the Center Design District. And prior to the meeting, I understand Commissioner Levy, you have something you'd like.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I recuse myself on this matter.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it would be Commissioner DiGiacomo's turn to sit in for Mr. Levy.
Okay, Commissioner DiGiacomo, I don't see you. I know you're there.
How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing fine, thanks. I hope you're doing well too.
Yes.
Good. There you are. There's your square.
Yep.
Excellent. So I don't have video, so if you do want to say something, participate, you're going to need to give me some sign, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, great. Thank you. Mr. Wendt.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this portion of the building subject to this application was for many years occupied by the Fairfield Citizen News office. This is a building that's down right adjacent to the New Haven-bound platform of our downtown train station. The applicant seeks to establish a 3,500 square foot personal fitness studio. This is a permitted use in the district. The Zoning Board of Appeals granted a variance for 6 parking spaces for this use last month, predicated on it being a smaller studio nature of the use and the fact that the adjacent train station parking lot, hopefully from which the applicant is intending to draw commuter clientele. So they found in favor of that a reduction of 6 parking spaces. Other than that, it is a permitted use in the district and only interior improvements. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent, thank you. Do I have a motion on this?
I move.
Commissioner Braun moves to approve.
Second, Kami.
Commissioner Noonan, thank you. Seconds. Commissioner Braun, any comments?
No, I like it. Sounds like a good plan. It's within the footprint, right?
It is.
Correct. Okay. Commissioner Noonan?
Nothing to add.
Okay, excellent. Anyone else? I think this is terrific. I mean, this is the kind of turnover and development that we're looking for, and a business plan to capitalize on commuters. Although not many people are commuting these days, but
Hopefully that will change in the not too distant future.
Exactly. And so in the meantime, they've got ample parking.
Commissioner Francis, one question.
Yes.
Do they still own that parking lot adjacent to the building?
Yes, the site plan, I don't have it in front of me. I can get it. The site plan shows that there is a parking lot that is attributed to this building, but the difference between the office space that was occupied by Fairfield Citizen and the what our regulations would demand for a indoor recreational space, that net difference is 6 spaces, and that's the difference that the Zoning Board of Appeals granted them relief from.
But they own about 12, 18 spaces.
Oh yeah, that's about a 30, 40 space parking lot.
Is it that much? Okay.
And this particular tenant has, I believe, 15 or 20 spaces assigned to it in that lot.
Oh, okay.
So there is some on-site parking. but they're hoping, to draw from commuter clientele that would hopefully wouldn't move their cars from where they're parked into this parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, being none. The motion is to approve, no conditions. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, very good. So the application is approved unanimously. The next item is 1375 Kings Highway, application of 1375 Kings Highway LLC to establish a daycare, day nursery use in a portion of an existing building in the DC TODP zone.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Jim Wendt again for the record. This property is part of the Trademark 2 development, and it was one of the existing office buildings. It was up on stilts, and as part of this development, they're enclosing the lower level. During the review of that and approval of that project, it was anticipated that that lower level would be occupied as retail space. The applicant seeks approval to use the ground floor as a daycare use, which is also a permitted use in the transit-oriented development park. The overall design of the building remains unchanged. What was originally shown as a concrete patio adjacent to this building is now proposed to be occupied as an outdoor play space for that daycare. We did provide you the drawing for that. It is a permitted use, same as retail. It's just an administrative review of that change in use from what was originally anticipated as a retail use. I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Braun, I can't hear you. I see you speaking, but I can't hear you.
I didn't say, can you hear me now? I was acting like I was speaking, but I haven't spoken yet. So are we losing any greenery? I see like a circle around all the trees. Are we losing any trees that were proposed as part of the landscape plan because of this change?
No, it's
get a motion on the table so that we can have discussion on the item.
Thank
you. Motion to approve. All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Noonan, second by Braun. Thank you, Commissioner Braun. Your question, Mr. Wendt?
Any trees being removed because of this as a landscape plan?
Well, there's no substantial change to the landscaping. There are still perimeter trees. We sent you the original plan and the proposed. There may be one tree adjacent to the parking lot that's now showing as a hedgerow, but it's not a substantial difference in my view from the landscaping plan that was previously reviewed.
Thank you.
Thanks. Very good. Any other questions or comments? I perceive this to be a positive, frankly, movement in filling the space, and with another use that is permitted without, significant alteration to the overall design, and frankly, an amenity for residents, which hopefully will have some traction. So I would encourage everyone to support that.
It'll also be a vast improvement over the existing parking lot that had been there.
Yeah, well, but the retail here has, I think, been a bit of a struggle. So, to have, a commercial tenant that will, sort of service more directly the tenants with, an amenity like this, I think is a good development. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Okay, so the motion is to approve. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so this application is approved unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is our public hearing. I will call them together, two items, and they are related, so I'll call them together before turning it over to the applicant. I do have a couple of housekeeping items to go over in light of our WebEx circumstances. And I know that Mr. Wendt has a few things he'd like to say too before we get started, in case I missed anything. So our public hearing today will be a zoning regulation amendment application of 131 Beach Road, LLC, to amend section 5.1.4 of the zoning regulations of the town of Fairfield. And item 2, 131 Beach Road, zoning compliance application of 131 Beach Road, LLC, pertaining to the construction of a 40-unit residential building pursuant to section 830G of the Connecticut General Statutes in the A zone. And so before we get started, I'd just like to ask first of the applicant that as I understand it, the applicant will make, if you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind, please mute your mics. And somebody's got a phone ringing. Thank you. As I understand it, the applicant will make their presentation in chief, and they have certain witnesses that experts and the like that they intend to call, so that we can have you know, a question and answer and not interrupt and so forth. I'd just ask the commissioners to please hold your questions until, you know, each presenter has concluded with their remarks, and then you know, we'll seek to recognize folks to ask questions and engage with those witnesses, you know, individually. We're going to try to control some video, right? Prioritize the speakers so that we can see them, you know, as they're presenting. And I think that's it. I will enforce the 8 p.m. curfew if we're not finished by then. I don't know exactly how long the applicant will take to put in their case. We will open it, if in that case, to public comment, which again, I just like to reiterate that folks can participate tonight or reserve their comments until September 15th. We will hold it open. Mr. Wendt, is there anything else that you had?
Just two things, Mr. Chairman, and maybe Emmeline, if you can unmute Chris Smith at this point. But just if we get to the point where there's going to be public comment after the presentation and the commission questioning, I would ask members of the public that are participating or want to participate to use the chat feature, and we'll again remind them later that in the chat feature, what we'll just simply ask them to do is type in their name that they wish to be heard, and that way we can have a running list of folks that might wish to speak. We can call them individually and unmute them at that time. And just before we get started, I know Mr. Smith will introduce himself, and you had previously mentioned that we are going to let you continue this matter to September 15th for further public participation. I just, as the commission knows, I just want to let the applicant, I appreciate the cooperative dialogue that we've had over the last several days, and the applicant has been cooperative in allowing it. It would take an extension of time in order for us to achieve that September 15th date. It's been a verbal understanding that was how we were going to proceed. And before we get started, I want to thank Mr. Smith for that participation, and just acknowledge for the record that they do agree to the continuation to move this to September 15th upon conclusion of today's proceedings. So Chris, I don't know if you're there.
I'm sorry, Jim. Chris Smith for the record. on behalf of the applicant owner 131 Beach Road LLC. My client does agree and consent to the additional time as provided by the governor's executive order, applicable executive order, as well as section 8-7D of the Connecticut General Statute, so that this hearing can be continued until September 15, 2020. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, the constructive dialogue that we've had over the last several days, I appreciate you and your clients' participation in that. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll set, I think we're ready to go. I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith.
And I'd like to thank
you.
Jim and Emmeline for their efforts and assistance in making sure that we were here this evening for this meeting. For the record, my name is Chris Smith, and I am an attorney, a land use attorney with the law firm of Alter & Pearson. And I appear before you on behalf of the owner applicant, 131 Beach Road, LLC. I would like to say thank you for putting this item on the agenda for this evening. I realize that it's taken time with the C-19 situation for many of the towns throughout the state to start having hearings where there was going to be, or is going to be, a anticipated public participation. So we do thank you for that. And also for the record, I think it's fair to say that everyone on this virtual meeting this evening would prefer to be before you in person. But again, thank you for proceeding with this matter at this time. A quick housekeeping matter, I did send in notice letters that I had sent to the Connecticut Department of Public Health as well as Aquarian. we do not believe that this property is located in a watershed, a designated watershed, but I did send notices to both as provided by statute regardless, and I did send in those notice letters and the green cards with the receipt signed is for the record. What I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, at this time is introduce the members of the development team. We have representing the owner applicant, 131 Beach Road LLC, Danielle DeGiannata, as well as Glenn Tatangelo. From the Huntington Company, our engineer, Mike Petrilla, our civil surveyor, licensed surveyor, Jason Spath from the Huntington Company. Architect from Gates Associates, we have John Geddes, as well as Marcus Reinheimer. Our traffic engineer from Hardesty, Hanover, and Frederick B. Clark Associates, Michael Galante. And finally, our code compliance and life safety specialist from Versteeg Associates, LLC, Mr. Joseph Versteeg. And we will be hearing from every member of the team as we go forward in this presentation. As you're aware, this is a two-part application, as the chair indicated in reading the call. We have an application for a zone text amendment, as well as an application for zoning compliance for a site-specific development plan. I'm just confirming with the chair at this point, if I may, that we're having a single public hearing concerning both applications. And this hearing will be able to cover both of the applications simultaneously.
Correct. Thank you. That's why I called them together and anticipated that you would present both applications together.
Okay, thank you. It is both of the applications are tied together, and relative to the 830G component, I do have to walk through various components of the statute. So doing it one time through for both applications, I'm sure would be preferred by the commissions and the member of the public. And I will have to do that for the record. As an overview, we do have a two-part application proposal in support of a proposed 40-unit residential community to be located on real property known as 131 Beach Road. The community will provide for housing opportunity or workforce housing units. Specifically, 30% or 12 of the units will be deed restricted as housing opportunity units for 40 years as provided by Section 8-30G of the Connecticut General Statutes, which I understand the Commission is very familiar with, and we'll get to that in a moment. What I'd like to do is we do have a PowerPoint presentation. I will be referring to some of the items that I submitted that are in the main application link, and I'm hoping that we can maybe bounce between the two of them. I know when we do get to the site plan component that Mr. Petrilla and Mr. Spath will be referring to the site development plans that are part of the main application link, and the representatives from Geddes Associates will be referring to the architecturals. But if we may, Ms. Harrigan, if the PowerPoint, we can go to that, that would be great.
Can you see that?
I can. How about, does everyone else have the visual?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I think a little bit of the top Emmeline is cut off. I'm not sure if that could be adjusted or not.
Okay.
Maybe that's just the way it's showing up here.
Well, Emmeline, I think if you change your view and don't preview pages, go full screen on your Adobe. Oh, yeah, you've got that open in a browser.
Okay, fit to.
Yeah, you've got that there. Yeah, preview page, page view.
I don't know how to get rid of these things at the top.
I think if you go all the way to the left. Go
All the way to the left?
One of those buttons may do it.
I can't get the whole thing. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. I think the better way for you to do that is to open that PDF in an Acrobat app as opposed to in your browser. And I think you can still use the web address to do that by opening Acrobat first and then choosing File, Open, and then just inserting the link.
I don't know if I have. I don't know if I have Acrobat. Let me see.
Okay.
I'm just gonna. Sorry, I'll start again. Sorry about that. Sorry. Bear with me.
Okay.
Take your time.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. Where won't this go?
Yeah, minimize the WebEx. Minimize the WebEx.
Okay.
Right, and then search in your, your apps or your system for Acrobat.
I don't think I have it on this laptop. I don't know why.
That would be strange. Not to have it just for even a reader.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Then go back to a browser. You can just open a separate browser.
Here, I'm just going to try this again. Let's see. Does it do this? Oh, there we go. At least that's better. Okay. Okay. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, that.
Much better.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, thank you. And Emmeline, if we can go to slide number 3, this is 1, please. Okay, thank you. Just to orientate the property, this 131 Beach Road is outlined in the blue, it's the blue rectangle with the Masonic Lodge structure located in the front, and you will see in the rear that it's essentially impervious surface associated with the parking. And along Beach Road going towards the Post Road, which is to the left, we have a medical office building, dental offices, St. Vincent's Urgent Care, and then finally People's Bank on the corner of the Post Road and Beach Road. And if you go across the street, Cumberland Farms, Fairfield Medical Center, the funeral home, very important Gaelic American Club to the rear. And then across the street, we have the school, the church, Operation Hope Food Pantry. The town hall is located down in the bottom corner at about 5 o'clock. And then at 4, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, we have residences on the that side of the property. And Emmeline, if you could please go to the next slide. This is the location map and just a larger full back scale with a list of the various uses in the immediate neighborhood. And we did designate the train station located over to the left at 9 o'clock, just so that you would have that for orientation purposes. And if we could go to the next slide, Emmeline. So this is existing conditions at the property. It's the former Masonic Lodge. We have obviously a front view and then one from the rear from the parking lot. We could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Here's some of the abutting properties across the street. Now, I did not place these banners there, but they were certainly appropriate on the church. And we have love, bless, and welcome all, and welcome the stranger, and work for social justice. We also have the food pantry sign and parking areas behind the Montessori school. We can go to the next slide, Emmeline, please. And then we have a photograph looking from the site toward the adjacent commercial building, and then looking to the residential building to the south, going towards the Old Post Road. And then again, directly behind us, there are two residential properties back there that were built, one in '89, it's our understanding, one in 1972, and you can see the existing tree line to the rear of the property. And, Ms. Harrigan, if we could go to the next slide, slide 8, that would be great. So again, we have an overview of the proposal. It's a Section 8-30G proposal, 40 multifamily dwelling residential community. It's been submitted to and respectfully submit consistent with and in compliance with Section 8-30G of the Connecticut General Statutes. And where the statutes provide for such, we are including 30% or 12 of the dwellings will be deed restricted as housing opportunity or affordable as defined by the statute going forward for 40 years. If we can go to the next slide, Emmeline, that would be great. Please, thank you. So again, the presentation overview, we have the zone text amendment that we're going to be addressing first, and then we have the zoning compliance application for the site development plan. And again, the proposal involves a zone text amendment for a new section 5.1.4 subsection A in your zoning regulations to allow for a new permitted use in the Residence A zone known as an inclusionary village residential use that includes a housing opportunity or affordable housing component as provided by Section 8-30G of the Connecticut General Statutes, subject to zoning compliance or site plan review and approval. And then again, the second application is an application for zoning compliance or site plan approval for the proposed 40-unit community. The format of our presentation is as follows. First, we will address the zone text amendment, and then we will address the zoning compliance or site plan application. I will provide our presentation as to the zone text amendment. While I'm doing that, I will cover the 830G components relative to the affordability plan that will roll over and does apply to the zoning compliance application. The entire team will be involved with the site development plan presentation for zoning compliance. Specifically, as to the site development plan, I'll provide a very quick overview and explain how the proposal complies and is consistent with Section 8-30G, and actually I'll be covering a lot of that when I'm addressing the zone text amendment, so we don't have to do it twice. Then I will be followed by a presentation by our engineer, Mike Petrilla of the Huntington Company, describing the site development proposal. We'll then have a summary of the architecturals by our architects. Marcus Reinheimer will be making that presentation from Geddes Associates, Inc. We will then have a summary of the traffic study that was prepared by our traffic engineer, Mike Galante, of Frederick P. Clark Associates, which is also Hardesty Hanover. I think it's Hardesty Hanover now. Mike can indicate that or clarify that when he's providing his presentation. And then finally, we'll have a summary of the fire safety report that was prepared by our fire safety consultant, Joe Versteeg. What I'd like to do now is go through the zone text amendment, and if I may, Emmeline, this is where if we can switch over to the main application and those three documents. And I had submitted, there were three documents that I had generated as part of the application package. And one was a submittal letter, that's basically a summary of the proposal and a statement of use. The second is the proposed zone text amendment. And the third is the affordability plan. Although the affordability plan is required by Section 8-30G. And I'm going to go through both of these in a summary fashion for my presentation. At the outset, and this was suggested that I do this, I would briefly like to address Section 8-30G. It's certainly not for the Commission's edification. I know that you've had a number of 830G applications or applications submitted pursuant to the statute, but it was recommended that I go over it more so for the people that might be listening in and participating in the meeting, the citizens, and might be hearing about it for the first time. And as we know, Section 8-30G involves the shifting of the burden of proof relative to a proposal that is submitted pursuant to the statute. And it applies, number one, it applies to municipalities that are not exempt from the 10% list, that are not registered by the Connecticut Department of Housing as having 10% or more of their housing stock qualify as affordable. And there's a number of different categories for that, as you're well aware. Two, it does shift the burden of proof to a commission that does not qualify under that 10% exemption. And three, as the courts have held, the application can, and as provided by the statute, the application cannot be denied unless there is substantial evidence that the proposal will adversely impact a substantial public interest. Now, examples of what does not constitute substantial public interest as addressed by the courts over a number of cases over the past number of years would be the perceived impacts on the school system, whether the proposal is consistent with other development in the neighborhood, if there's a single family, if it's right in the middle of a single family development. And similarly to traditional zoning applications, fears and speculations. Now, respectfully referring to the summary letter, if we may, that's the first document in the main application link. And again, I'll just go through this very quickly. Our experts will address some of these items more specifically. This is really just an overview. If we could go to page 2, respectfully refer you to page 2 for the overview of the proposal. The subject property comprises about approximately 6.5 acres and is located within the Residence A zone district. There was previously the Fidelity, Masonic Temple Association, Inc. utilized the subject property. The subject property is located within approximately 600 feet of the Fairfield Town Hall and the Post Road, and that plays in somewhat with the zone text amendment. And the proposed residential use is essentially within the development footprint of the impervious surface area associated with the previously existing membership club use, the Masonic club use of the subject property. The proposed multifamily residential community will have 16 one-bedroom units or dwellings and 24 two-bedroom dwellings, and this will be explained in greater detail by our architects as we go forward through the presentation this evening. And there are 55 parking spaces. The proposed residential community currently is proposed to comprise rental units or dwellings. However, the applicant reserves any and all rights to convert these rental units or dwellings within the residential community to a for sale community, thereby converting the ownership component of the mixed income residential use from rental ownership through sale. The community has an internal driveway system proposed with full access to Beach Road. It will be private. The subject property has access to both public water and public sewer. The applicant has confirmed and obtained approval or confirmation from the Water Pollution Control Authority of the town of Fairfield for capacity for service, that there is adequate sewer capacity for the proposed residential community. The residential community, again, will be served by water. There are no wetlands or watercourses associated with the property, either located on or immediately adjacent to. A wetlands permit is not required. The proposed multifamily residential community stormwater runoff will be collected and treated prior to discharge. We did participate in the code review process with the town. Turning to page 3, going down to the second paragraph, as I indicated before, the proposal includes a housing opportunity or affordable housing component as provided by Section 8-30G, where specifically 6 dwellings will be offered at rental or for sale prices that will preserve the housing for families paying 30% or less of their income, where such income is less than or equal to 80% of the median income as defined by 830G. 6 dwellings will be offered to families qualifying at the 60% of the median income level, again, as defined under 8-30G. These rental prices target families with incomes comparable to many of Fairfield's municipal and Board of Education employees. We'll get to that in a moment. There will be restricted deed covenants to ensure that the buildings are sold or rented at such at such prices. The deed covenants will restrict these dwellings for a period of 40 years as required by the statute. And for purposes of this proposal, the deed restricted dwellings are referred to as housing opportunity homes, which is how you define such in your zoning regulations. This housing opportunity or affordable housing component results in greater housing opportunities for the citizens of Fairfield. Now, as far as the housing opportunity needs, just like to address this very quickly for the Commission. As you're aware, the statute has been in place for over 25 years now. There are a number of different ways people have applied for applications. I know in Fairfield, you prefer to have someone just file a straight-up zoning application without a text amendment or zone change. Many towns have addressed the 830Gs where applicants have filed a zone change, a proposed new zone district, and a zone change, and then a site plan. We have followed what many applicants have done in other towns, and that is to file a zone text amendment to permit the use in the particular zone, and also a site plan, or in your case, you don't have site plan approval, but we have filed an application for zoning compliance approval. And this two-part application process ensures that the site development plan, if approved, is governed by a clear set of land use regulations with bulk area dimensional requirements going forward. That's the zone text component. The proposed regulations include provisions for administrative rules for the dwellings that will be subject to long-term rent or for sale restrictions, and these rules are spelled out more appropriately, they're spelled out in the accompanying housing affordability plan that I'll just provide a very brief summary of later. The town of Fairfield, like other municipalities in the region, has an acute need for more housing that is available to moderate income households, as provided under Section 8-30G. I made reference before to the so-called, and I'm at page 4 in the middle of page 4 of the document. I'm sorry. I think we're there. There we are. The 10% list, which is maintained by the Connecticut Department of Housing, DOH, and that identifies municipalities that are permanently exempt from applications filed pursuant to 8-30G. And it's not strictly a measure of housing need. However, it is an indication of a municipality's lower cost housing stock relative to other municipalities in the state. And in this regard, and this is provided in my the cover letter, Fairfield has approximately 21,648 dwellings, and I took this off the 2018 Affordable Housing Appeals List created by the Connecticut Department of Housing, DOH, and only 2.43% of the town's housing stock qualifies as either government or assisted or deed restricted in compliance with 8-30G relative to the 10% list. I did update that. I did secure the 2019 list. I think that Mike Santoro and DOH, that came out after we filed this application. And according to the 2019 list, Fairfield's housing stock went up a 0.04% from 2.43 to 2.47% of the total housing stock. So obviously Fairfield's not exempt. I know that you've been getting close to being able to apply for a moratorium, and good luck with that. Hopefully we can help you with that. But at the moment, Fairfield does not qualify for the exemption. Now again, we have the two-part application. The first component is, and this is the bottom of page 4, it's a proposed new, and this is the title of the text amendment, quote, additional permitted uses in the Residence A zone, inclusionary, village residential use with a housing opportunity or affordable housing component. And this is proposed to be a new section 5.1.4 subsection A of the zoning regulations. Your current regulations do not permit the proposed residential community Therefore, we have proposed this zone text amendment that creates this new inclusionary multifamily residential community use with a housing opportunity or affordable housing component within the Residence A zone district. The intent of the proposed text amendment is to permit the development of certain properties located within 600 feet of the Fairfield Town Hall and the Post Road and in close proximity to real properties located in commercial zone districts with cluster or multifamily residential infill communities, which provides for a housing opportunity or affordable housing component pursuant to Section 8-30J. For example, this proposal, again, provides that 30% of the total number of dwellings, which are 40, 12 dwellings or 30% will qualify under 8-30G as housing opportunity or workforce, or excuse me, affordable housing units. What I'd like to do next is just walk you very quickly through the zone text amendment in a very summary fashion. You certainly can ask me any questions that you'd like, but I certainly don't want to go through each item and each subsection line by line. So Ms. Harrigan, we could go, I think that should be right after this page, or after the next page, I think, the signature page. Perfect. Okay, so we have the proposed zone text amendment, and respectfully refer you to the next page. So this is the proposed text amendment, new section 514A, and under intent and purposes, and I'll just read a couple of these. Under intent and purposes, subsection 1, Roman numeral 1, is to, quote, increase the availability of affordable and attainable rental or for sale housing opportunities or affordable dwellings in Fairfield where existing and adequate public facilities and services are present, and the proposal is within 600 feet of the Fairfield Town Hall and Post Road and in close proximity to commercial zone properties. Sub-Roman numeral 2, encourage the construction of rental or for sale affordable dwellings that are within the economic means of moderate and low-income households and is a mixed income community or development. Roman numeral 3, promote housing choice and economic diversity, including rental or for sale housing for moderate and low-income households within the town of Fairfield. And finally, Roman numeral 4, efficiently utilize existing infrastructure and promote neighborhood planning by providing, where infrastructure support is available, a diversity of housing, densities, sizes, and prices with infill development opportunities. The next section provides for permitted uses and includes multifamily residential dwellings and accessory uses. Turning on to the next page, the next subsection deals with site requirements, minimum acreage, minimum frontage, having access to public water and sewer, being located again within 600 feet of the town hall and Post Road. Next section deals with bulk area, dimensional, and open space requirements. Going down to the next section, we have other standards, private driveways, where they're proposed, they must be designed and constructed in accordance and with standards of the town of Fairfield. Parking, going to the top of the next page, requires a minimum of 1.25 parking spaces per unit. We have density provision, and we have signage. And going down to the next section, that's entitled Site Plan Documents Required to be Submitted under this section. I'm not going to go through each one of those. The next section provides for a traffic study, and that the commission can request a traffic study if an application is filed under this section, proposed section. As the commission is aware, we have prepared a traffic study, and Mr. Galante will be reviewing that with you during our site development plan or zoning compliance application. The next section addresses the application requirements. Going down to the section after that, entitled Requirements for Housing Opportunity, Affordable Housing, or Mixed Income Component. That provides for the 30% at 40 years under the statute, and the statute is specifically referenced, the statute being Section 8-30G of the Connecticut General Statutes. Going down to the final section of the text amendment, we have proposed text amendment. We have requirements for housing opportunity, affordable housing, or mixed income dwellings And we have that the following requirements shall apply to any such dwelling. You go to the top of the next page under subsection A, the dwelling shall be of a construction quality that is comparable to market rate dwellings within the development. The next subsection B, the dwelling shall be dispersed throughout the development and built on a pro rata basis as construction proceeds. For every 3 units, one has to involve a housing opportunity unit, and that's actually required by the statute. Going down to C, that there be an affordability plan that includes provisions for administration and compliance with this section, various notice procedures to the general public of the availability of affordable units, identification of the method for designating units, procedures for verification and periodic confirmation of unit occupancy, income, and compliance with affordability requirements. And then finally, last subsection D provides that if there is a violation of these regulations, that it shall not result in a forfeiture or reversion of title, but that the Fairfield Town Plan and Zoning Commission or its designated agent shall otherwise retain all enforcement powers granted to the Commission and the designated agent as provided by Section 8-12 of the Connecticut General Statutes. So that's just a quick overview of the zone text amendment.
I have a question.
So, Commissioner Noonan, Mr. Smith, are you finished reviewing the text amendment?
I was, as part of this presentation, I was just going to quickly go through the affordability plan since it is somewhat tied to the text amendment, and then I was pretty much going to be concluding.
All right. So, we have moved through quite a bit of material, and I also have a question about the nature of the application in the context of the text amendment and compliance. So I don't know whether now would be a good time to open the floor for some questions about that, or if you would prefer to conclude where where you were going.
If I can just hit 2 more PowerPoint slides, and then I'll defer on the affordability plan and go to that later if that's the Commission's desire. I just have some quotes, some citations to your POCD and your TOD study to make reference to relative to the.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Emily. So although this is certainly not required under Section 8-30G, as you probably know, but I just did, I went to your POCD, the town's conservation and development, the town plan of conservation and development is what it's called, that was adopted by this commission on November 15, 2016, just to refer to some of the goals and recommendations that the commission adopted in that plan. And the first one, as indicated on the slide, is, quote, the creation of a transitional zone for multifamily housing to stem the spread of business uses into residential neighborhoods, kind of like a buffer zone. And that's at page 50 of this document. And I took this off your website. B, quote, housing opportunities, again, these are goals and recommendations that you have in your POCD. Housing opportunities to people of all ages, creeds, races, incomes, and physical disabilities, page 73. And then finally at page 74, quote, the town recognizes the obligation to provide affordable housing and should continue to pursue appropriate options to supply affordable housing in all areas of town. And that's at page 74 of the POCD. And if we could just respectfully request, Edeline, if you can go to the next page, page 11 of the slides. Now, this is from your transit-oriented development study from October, just this past fall, October 2019. We are not in a TOD area, but I just would like to refer to these findings in your report concerning the need for multifamily housing in the town of Fairfield. And at page 6, we have, these are findings in the report, quote, the relative scarcity and high current occupancy of existing multifamily housing in Fairfield means that development in the station areas, and that's what this study was looking at, and we're not in one of these areas, may be able to capture a relatively high share of the overall market seeking TOD housing. In other words, there's a need for multifamily housing in Fairfield. And the study that was done for the TOD study indicated some of the findings were that households seek a wide variety of multifamily housing units, including apartments in Fairfield. That's at page 7. And with the study, 68.2% are looking for multifamily rentals in lofts and apartment buildings. And again, that's at page 7. And I would just like to reiterate that, again, we're not in a TOD area as designated by this study, but these are just referred to relative to the need for multifamily housing in the town of Fairfield. And Mr. Chairman, what I was just going to do was just going to conclude my presentation was just very quickly walk through the affordability plan, which is kind of tied under 830G. We have to have a plan, as you're well aware, filed with both applications, and then I can stand down, so to speak, relative to the zone text amendment, take questions if you'd like. But it's your purview, whatever you and the commission would like me to do.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you for, I appreciate the, the option, but go ahead and finish. We'll hold questions until your breaking point.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Harrigan, if we could go back to the Emmeline, the main, and just go to the affordability plan, which should be after the zone text amendment. And if we can't find it, I'll just summarize it, and then I just have like 2 or 3 other slides relative to the affordability plan.
I think it's after the site plan, so I'll just have to get there in a second, sorry.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, when I do these applications, I think it's appropriate just to at least provide a summary to the commission of the documents that have been submitted pursuant to the statute so that it's in the record. And we do have people with the public, so but I'm not sure if you've had other people do that or not, but that look like the architectural floor plans.
I think it's at the very end. Sorry, it's just taking a little while because it's graphically rich in order to get past it. Here we go. Let's see what this is. Come on.
It's on page 30. Just this is Jim Wendt for the record, just so everybody knows, and I posted in the chat the links to the master and the presentation. All of these documents have been up on in the department, the Town Planning and Zoning Department webpage under Forms and Documents, and the links have just been posted in the chat. But they are up on the department website. And if anybody after this has any questions, they can email me tomorrow, and I can provide those links directly. But it's under Forms and Documents under the TPZ department webpage.
Chris, and we should be all set now.
Okay, thank you. If we can go to the first page, and I was just going to walk through some of the headings and then give you an example and refer to the Schedule A, and then we have a graphic for the dispersion as well. But in the plan, and this is actually this is a plan that's been utilized throughout the state for a number of years, and respectfully submit, it does comply with the provisions of 8-30G and the regulations that have been adopted by the Connecticut Department of Housing pursuant to the statute. We have an intro at page 1, and then there's a subsection that deals with, and this would run, this is a draft. If indeed there were to be an approval and the community were to be built, and at that point in time, with permits being secured, that's when this would have to be updated to the current numbers then in effect at that time. And I understand you have a fairly active housing authority that I presume would be reviewing the provisions in the plan for compliance with the statute. But again, we do, by statute, we're supposed to, anyone who's an applicant under the statute is supposed to submit a draft affordability plan to the commission. So at page 1, we have in subsection 1, the apartment homes being designated, again, the 30% at 40 years. Section 2, subsection 3, or section 3, excuse me, requires a pro rata construction and dispersion, and that's also included in the zone text amendment. If you go to page 2, the nature and construction of the housing opportunity units shall be in compliance with that as approved on the site plan. We've designated an entity, which is the owner applicant, 131 Beach Road LLC, or its successors and assigns as the administrator. The administrator is required to submit an annual report to the Fairfield Town Plan and Zoning Commission or your designee or whomever that you require. Subsection Roman numeral 6 provides for the notice procedure of the initial rental of the housing opportunity units. This is provided by statutes and federal law. Resident eligibility is the next section. Going to the top of page 3, there's the affirmative provision for the affirmative fair housing marketing plan, and that's spelled out relative to the units. Going to the top of page 4, Roman numeral 9 is the application process. That addresses the form, the interview procedure, and going to the top of page 5, the verification of the applicant's income. There's a provision for the prioritization of the applicants for the initial rental or sale and having a wait list created. And then Roman numeral 11 is the maximum sale or sale price calculation or formula. And what I'd like to do there, if we can go back to the PowerPoint, Emmeline, we talked about this earlier, it's slide number 12. If I can just walk you through how this is actually calculated. So people are very often confused with mixed income rents, what they actually mean. So this is for a 2-bedroom rental unit with a family earning less than at the 80% of the state median income level. And I'm just quickly...
Can you expand that or yeah, make it that larger, please? Yeah, keep going. That's much better, thank you.
And again, these are numbers that were in effect at the time after the application was filed earlier this year. The first step is to determine the lower of the relevant area median income for the Bridgeport, Stanford, Norwalk HMFA, or the statewide median income level and adjusted for a family of 4 as published by HUD. So you generate that number, then you adjust it for the number of individuals in the household. For 2 bedrooms, it would be 3 persons. You calculate 90% of item 1, that brings it down to $90,360. And then you calculate 80% of that, which is $72,288. So that's the income level for a family at the 80% median income. And you take 30% of that can be applied for their housing needs. That's $21,000. You divide that by 4. The monthly rent would be $1,807. Then you have to compare that to the fair market rents for Bridgeport HMFA, and you get that off of the DOH website. And there's a formula for that, and that would bring that number down to $1,551. You have to take the lesser of that versus the item number 5, whichever is less, and the $1,551 is the lesser amount, so that would carry over. You have a reduction of that for the reasonable estimate for monthly expenses and utility costs for $150, and then the end result being that the maximum rental that can be charged for one of the 2-bedroom units at the 80% median income level would be approximately $1,400. Respectfully, Emmeline, if you could go to the next page, that would be great. Next slide, please. Now, just to put a little perspective on what this number means, the $72,288, just trying to go through some of the budgets for the town and for the Board of Ed. This was the information that we were able to glean from those documents. So from a contract between the town of Fairfield and the Fairfield Police Union, the police officer salary range for step 1 through step 4 is $68,000 to $75,000 approximately. And that obviously, any of those officers would qualify for this 2-bedroom unit at the 80% median income. Looking at the agreement between the Fairfield BOE Board of Ed and the Fairfield Education Association, together with the Fairfield Public Schools, the Fairfield teacher, 10-month employee for 2020 through 2021, salary range for steps 1 through 13, with various levels of higher education, would be approximately $50,000 to $73,000. And obviously teachers would qualify for these 2-bedroom units. And then looking at an agreement between the town of Fairfield and Local 1426, International Association of Firefighters, firefighter salary range for step 3 through 4 in the approximately 71 to 73,400, and you would have those firefighters and their families with that income qualifying again for this 2-bedroom unit at the 80% median income. And just going to, and the last 2 slides that I have, just going to the next slide. This is just taken from the back portion of the affordability plan. This is Schedule A to the affordability plan. It's the designation of housing opportunity units. And again, market rate units would be 28. The housing opportunity units would be 12 for a total of 40 multifamily dwellings. And the number of market rate and housing opportunity units by number of bedrooms would be as follows. For market rate bedrooms, there would be 11. For 2 bedrooms, there would be 17. For housing opportunity units, for the 1 bedrooms, there would be 5. And for the 2 bedrooms, there would be 7, for a total of 16 1-bedroom units and 24 2-bedroom units. We did provide you with a dispersion location of the units throughout the building. I believe that's the next slide, and I think that we will be addressing that more particularly with during the architect's, Mr. Ged's presentation and his associate. So in conclusion, I would respectfully submit that the zone text amendment does comply with Section 8-30G and would respectfully request that you approve it. And now I'm certainly available to take any questions, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for letting me be able to finish the presentation. It's difficult when you're doing it in this virtual mode as opposed to just having everybody in front of you and to have those questions coming in. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate very much the format, the difficulty of the format. Ms. Harrigan, maybe you can stop sharing your screen. I know I've got Commissioner Noonan as number 1 in the queue. Let me just change my view. Okay. Can I just get a read from any other commissioners as to whether you have any questions? Commissioner Levy, Commissioner Francis. And if you're not talking, please mute. All right, so let's start with Commissioner Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney Smith.
Yes, sir.
Did you have a model that you based your proposed amendment on? Obviously, you tailored it to Fairfield in this particular application. Was there some model that you used to start off, so to speak?
Yes, this is a model that I have used, as well as other legal counsel throughout the state over the past number of years, and I just tailor it on an application by application basis.
Has it been,
Recently,
has it been
Oh, I'm sorry.
approved recently or anywhere in the state?
recently, I had an application using this format approved in Westport. There was a similar version of this that we ended up, did not comply under 830G, but it was for another site in Westport that I believe was last year. One was for 1177 Post Road East, the other one was 1480 Post Road East. 1480 again was not a Section 8-33G application. I've used it, you know, throughout the state over the years. I can, you know, Oxford, then in Brantford.
For the one in Westport, how many units was in that complex?
One was, don't hold me to the exact number, Commissioner Noonan. One was the one on 1177 was 94. It was in the 90s. I think it was 94. And the other one on 1480. Again, that was not an 830G. It started off as one. We worked with the commission. There were some adjustments, split zone property. And that one, I believe, and please don't hold me to the numbers again, was 32. I have one in Oxford now that's similar to this, and that's at 200, 190, excuse me.
5 stories in any of those, or?
Please don't hold me to it with the with parking underneath. I don't know the answer to that. I wouldn't be able to answer that.
That's fine. As I understand, looking at the two applications together, if we approve the zoning amendments, then your application is a permitted use and you don't need the 830G. Is that true?
Oh, no, you would need the 830G, and that's why in the zone text amendment, Commissioner, specifically require that you have to comply with 830G relative to the units and having that 30% component. That's in the latter sections of the zone text amendment.
Okay, but I understand at least the 30%, but as far as height, setbacks, things like that, that normally in 830G, at least applications that we have seen, disregard the regulations with respect to those quantifiable regulations. If we're just focusing on those, the regulations that you propose would make this permitted use, correct?
Yes, it would.
Okay, except obviously you've included the 30%, as you said. Okay. The 600 feet of Post Road and Town Hall, is that a conjunctive 600 feet of both or 600 feet of either one?
600 feet from the Town Hall, within 600 feet of the Town Hall, and within 600 feet of the Post Road.
Conjunctive, okay. Any reason why you specified just that? I mean, we see in our applications, one of the things we always see is, one of the questions we always ask is, you know, how does this affect the rest of the town? And then the converse of that is some applicants try to hedge that risk, so to speak, by being as, you know, narrow as possible, but then run, you know, possibly going against spot zoning. So can you just take me through the 600 feet?
Certainly. The idea is to provide for infill development, and as indicated in your POCD, where you would have a transitional use, generally commercial, multifamily, and then single family in this area along the Post Road, so that you would have it in more of the town center, so to speak, and you would not have it happening, for example, to the south of the Post Road into single-family residential neighborhoods. So the idea is to keep it within close proximity to this particular area. As you can tell, immediately between this site and the Post Road, there are a number of commercial uses and other nonprofit membership type of uses, church uses, whatever, and across the street. So it would be to focus it into that area. To your comment with the applicability of the text amendment, yes, it could be applied elsewhere. And I've had to, every town that has confronted either a zone change with a text amendment with a new zone or a text amendment such as proposed this evening, I would respectfully submit that if anybody came in with an 830G application, they would come in with either their own text amendment or, as in many of the cases in your town, without any text amendment whatsoever, just as similar to the one down by the train station, I believe it's Umpqua, where they just had it was either, I think it was just a certificate of zoning compliance application in that one. We thought about that, but again, I think it's important to have the text amendment because then you do have a set of regulations, bulk area requirements and whatnot that do run with the property going forward. I think it's fair to say that anyone who does file an 830G application with a text amendment or zone change does try to tailor it for the property. I would respectfully submit that spot zoning after the Campion case out of New Haven does not exist anymore. And also, one of the ways that one town dealt with this was to approve the text amendment and then to put a sunset provision on it where it only applied, essentially only applied to that one particular development. And that was that 1177 Post Road East because of those types of concerns, which my client would have no objection to something like that if that were to occur. So I'm trying to address some, I think there were some multiple questions or issues.
No, that's fine. Just bringing up what you said earlier, though, about the regulations following the application. I understand your application, your 830G application has the height and the setbacks and stuff that would mirror the zoning regulation amendment. But if you approve the 830G application, it doesn't necessarily, while it does in this case, it's brought forth as companion applications. 830G doesn't necessarily have to follow our regulations. So even if we were to pass this amendment now, and you were to change it later for whatever reason, you don't necessarily have to follow the amendments that even we pass now, correct? That's the point of 830G is I thought, to kind of disregard the regulations to some extent and focus more on that test that we know from the courts.
830G does require that that draft regulations be submitted. That was part of the second Blue Ribbon Commission, which I had the privilege to serve on. So you are supposed to file draft regulations with an application. And we would, any application that were approved with this zone text amendment would have to comply with that zone text amendment going forward. So in other words, if there was a setback, impervious surface, whatever the requirements are in this zone text amendment, if this proposed use was not built, this proposal under the zone compliance, and someone else came along and wanted to apply under the same text that is before you this evening, they would have to comply with that text amendment. Or if they just wanted to do something totally different, they would just draft their own new zoning regulations to comply with their proposal, which is pretty much how it works.
Or file an 830G on its own.
Do you mean without a text amendment?
Without text amendment.
That's a choice that people do take throughout the state, yes. And I know that's a preferred, oh, I'm sorry.
No, please finish, I interrupted.
No. And I understand through your land use professional staff that that's the preference. It's my understanding, it could be the preference with the commission when someone does file an application under 830J.
And just one final one for me, Mr. Chair. And this can either be to Attorney Smith or to staff. Currently, our regulations go up to 4 stories or throughout the town, really? Or is that, somebody can help me, I just don't remember the exact
5 or 50 feet.
Yeah, Jim Went, for the record. In residential zones, we cap out at 3 stories. Downtown commercial maxes out at 5 stories, 50 feet.
And this is, again, residence B?
This is residence A presently.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Excellent. So I think Commissioner Levy was next in the queue. You're muted, Steve. Oh, no, still muted. There you go.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Attorney Smith. A couple of questions.
Good evening, sir.
With respect to the text amendment, as I understand it, if we were to approve the 830G, that could be built without the necessity of amending the zoning regs. Is that correct?
I think that's the case, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Then my second line of questioning has to do with, in your affordability plan, you've reserved the right to convert from a lease or tenant occupied development to a for sale community. Would that necessitate converting either to a condominium or some sort of cooperative type legal structure, or how would that be done if you were to convert to a sale community?
Well, I'm just a country land use lawyer, and I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but if it were to be a common interest community or cooperative, which we don't have any of those in Connecticut,
Right.
then there would have to be some sort of legal documentation. But as you're well aware, Commissioner Levy, that zoning deals with the use of land and not the identity of the user, and the use here would be the multifamily component. But if it were to be converted, that component from a rental to a for sale, I presume that there would have to be some sort of common interest documentation prepared associated with that.
And my concern would be that at present, the affordability plan provides us with examples of various rental amounts that would be under the 60 and 80% of the 1 and 2 bedroom, but it doesn't address the possibility of a for sale community. And that would include, for instance, if it were to be converted to a condominium, making provision for limiting the common charges or HOA expenses so that anybody who qualifies for the affordability plan, that those common charges would also be limited, which would essentially mean, I guess, that the balance of the community, the other 28 units, would in effect subsidize the 12 units. If you were to exercise, or if the developer wants to exercise that and change it to a for sale community, would he have to come back to us with a separate affordability plan at that time? Or, well, I guess that's my question. Would you anticipate that it would be a separate affordability plan to then convert it from a lease community to a sale, or what would be the steps to be taken?
Well, I think that as provided in the affordability plan, there has to be an annual report submitted to the commission, and if the change in the form of ownership were to occur, that an affordability plan would have to be submitted. That would be to comply with 830G, and that would have to be reviewed, could be reviewed by you, just as the annual for a rental for the next 40 years, that would be reviewed by the commission or your designated agent as well. So if there were to be that change, there would have to be a new affordability plan demonstrating compliance with the statute relative to the sale of any of those units, correct?
Mm-hmm. And just one last question, would there be anything that would preclude sort of a mixed development where, you know, you might sell certain units and the condominium association would reserve these as lease or rental units? I don't know, I've run into that hybrid, but is that a possibility?
I haven't either, but I think under the concept that that would be a multifamily use, as long as that was maintained, that you could, in theory, do that. I have been doing it for 35 years, not 830G the entire time, because it hasn't really been in effect that long, but I haven't seen that. I haven't come across that yet. I've seen mixed uses with commercial, but I have not seen a straight up change like that where it was 100% residential. But I suppose that you could do that. I don't see any reason why you couldn't, and you would have to file an affordability plan. Remember, the affordability plan addresses which units have, and then as they go forward, for example, with the rents, if somebody doesn't qualify any longer, then the next rental unit that comes up that's market rate does have to be substituted for the 80% or 60, whatever it happens to be. So that would be one way for the, that's how the commission would monitor that going forward, or again, designated agent and or your designated agent. But I haven't heard that one before, Commissioner. A hybrid situation.
Thank you. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. So I had Commissioner Francis next up.
Okay. These units were, the prices, rental prices were developed for families of 4. Would the police and the fire and the teacher qualify if they were single people for the 1 bedroom?
I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Do you have a chart that shows that for 1 person, 2 people, 3 people?
Well, the formula is based on the number of bedrooms. That's where the reference is made to 1.2 people, 3 people, and that's provided by the regulations that the state has adopted. And but that's the family income. So you could have a police officer making $70,000 with his wife, his companion, and a child, assuming it's a 2-bedroom. And that's how they would qualify. The family, the income would have to be the family within the level.
Right.
So, and it could be a single person, Madam Commissioner. So you could have a single person, as long as his income is at that level, then he could, he or she, will be able to rent either one of those units.
Well, it's a rather high income for 1 person family.
Well,
a family of 4 I can understand. But.
And that's why I always think it's important just, and it's not so much for the commission, but sometimes for the commission, but certainly for the general public, to just go through the various municipal budgets and Board of Ed budgets and see where we can find some comparables for people that, you know, are there working for the town, working in the town on a daily basis that would qualify for these mixed income units.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then can you clarify what the, within 600 feet of the town hall means? Does that mean the whole town hall campus property, or the front of the town hall, or what?
Well, I think we developed it trying to come up with some limitations within the RA zone. We use the 600 feet just from the perimeter of the town hall property. I don't know if there's multiple properties, but I know that you have multiple buildings, and then also require that relative to the post road too. So essentially, I think it's fair to say that that would probably keep it in a, I'm going to use the phrase transitional zone or infill zone along the post road, in between the post road and the town hall. So there would be that radius that would apply relative to the text amendment with the 600 foot.
Well, there are some lovely homes across from the town hall.
I think it's fair to say that if there were a parcel, no matter where in the town, unless you're in an industrial zone that doesn't permit residential uses, which is an exempt situation under 8-30G, that if somebody really wanted to apply for an 830G application, they would just file an application compliant with it and having the affordability plan and whatnot. But with this, again, we try to provide for a text amendment that could run with this property, try to limit it to an area where in your, you know, your plan of conservation and development and from just a good planning sense to have infill development where you do have this multifamily use that would presumably occur between commercial uses along the post road and then single family homes going toward, away from the post road, in this case towards Old Post Road, which is just what's been proposed. So we tried to keep that format relative to the text amendment so that it would be limited to this area. And just from a planning perspective, being somewhat consistent with the concept of having infill. You have a, you know, the old Masonic home that's been there for, or excuse me, Temple Club that's been there for many, many years, and converting that over to a multifamily use. I know that we would never want that to happen with the Gaelic Club, but similarly, that type of use, church use, whatever, in between, or another commercial use in between the Post Road and the old Post Road within 600 feet of the town hall campus, might be a suitable location for such. And it would have to work from a marketing standpoint too. Otherwise, a potential developer like my client just wouldn't go through the effort of trying to get the approvals. And here you have walkability, you have the center.
Oh, yeah.
That.
No, I was more concerned about using the whole town hall campus and down Beach Road and down Penfield Road. And last question, some of our developments lately, we have asked for life of the building rather than 40 years. Is your client amenable to that?
I'll ask my client that and report back to you before the continued hearing on the 15th. I don't know the answer to that. And for measuring distances, Madam Commissioner, I presume there's probably a way that you do it for liquor, package store liquor uses, restaurant uses. You probably have distance requirements like most towns do throughout the state. So I would presume, I don't know how you measure that if it's door to door, but I think we were thinking, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong by Mr. Petrula from the Huntington Company later, but I think we're just going from the campus, the property, to this site relative to the town campus. Just to be clear, more clear on that.
That campus is huge. That's why I asked. If you start going up east and west sides of it, whatever. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
And it would also have to be within 600 feet of the Post Road too. So I just want to point that out.
So that does.
So I think what would be helpful in this regard is if you could submit a map with some concentric circles that would identify the scope of properties that would be that would come within the measured distances, so that we could see, with some specificity, the parcels that would fall within the proposed zone.
We can do that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks. That would be helpful.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, if the relevant parcels could be shaded, because not every parcel that falls within the radius is going to meet the criteria.
No, that's correct. Yeah, so to identify the parcels that would meet the criteria would fall under the proposed text amendment.
We'll shade those. We can do that.
Right. Yeah. How did if I may, are there any other commissioners that have questions for Mr. Smith, for Attorney Smith?
I have a question.
Commissioner Braun, hold on one second, Commissioner Braun.
I just had a follow-up on what Campion Casey was talking about. That can be done later.
I have a follow-up on Campion also, but my laptop is about to die, then I have to switch to telephone, which I have turned on. But I have a quick question. On the historic district, I might have missed it, but I don't know if you mentioned it, but I think that whole 600-foot radius is probably mostly, I think this property is adjacent to the historic district. Yeah. And I think the whole area you're talking about is probably mostly within the historic district. Have you covered that in your analysis, or did I miss it?
In my understanding, and we can provide something graphic for the commission for the continued hearing, but my understanding is that the historic district does cross through adjacent properties. I don't think, and we'll confirm this, that it actually abuts the subject property. But again, we will look into that and report back to the commission. Obviously, if somebody were to try to develop, had an application for a land use proposal, and they're located in the historic district under, 7147, they would have to apply for a certificate of appropriateness from your HDC, and that's separate and distinct from an application to the zoning commission.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I think though it was more than just the subject parcel. I think the question related more to the text amendment.
Correct.
And the 600 foot criteria as potential, including parcels that would also be in a historic district.
That's
So,
correct.
so if,
Oh, sorry.
so I think in that context, if in the map that you're preparing, you could identify whether any of the parcels that would meet the criteria under the proposed text amendment are also in the historic district, I think that would be helpful for us.
And I think it's fair to say, and I'll just confirm this with my client, but I think it's fair to say that if the commission were to adopt the text amendment, since you can always make it more restrictive, I don't think we would have any objection to a provision being added that it would exclude any property located in the historic district, the designated historic district as provided by the applicable statute. So to address that, I don't think we would have, my client would have any objection to that.
Okay,
And
thanks.
if you want, I can address the Campion case, but.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll wait. I have.
Oh, no. Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman. You're in charge.
That's okay. To Commissioner, what's your question?
Is it 2006 Supreme Court case? Is that the Campion case you're referring to?
It might have been. It's with New Haven.
Okay, yes, it is. I just thought, the way you said it, I thought it was something new, but it's 06. Okay.
I did the amicus brief for the planners and the enforcement for the Connecticut chapter of the APA and the Connecticut Zoning Enforcement Officer Association in support of the format that they used in New Haven for those years. They basically had separate overlays for, well, they had drafted your text amendments for site by site. That's how they had done it for years. But the court upheld that the appellate court said you couldn't do it, and then the Supreme Court reversed the appellate court and held that was a viable planning tool and provided flexibility to municipalities, which is important for zoning.
That's fine. I just want to make sure I have the right case. Thank you.
Yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No apologies. I think this is all really helpful, and I think the commissioners are bringing, really good questions to the applicant here, and I appreciate, your taking the time to explain all of this. So I think the proposed text amendment essentially codifies the building parameters of the application, right? So I think the building is 5 stories, 50 feet, plus the parking deck, which makes the overall height of the building 60 feet, right?
I believe so. I would defer to the architects on the numbers, but you're right. It does codify the proposal, the site development plan. You're right. Yes, sir.
Right. So, so why 60 feet? Why 5 stories of apartments instead of 4 stories or 7 stories? What was the substantiation or analysis that went into choosing the proposed parameters of, this building that are codified, proposed to be codified in the text amendment?
Well, I can't speak for my client who could maybe walk you through the business particulars, but one thing I do advise clients is that if they're going to be utilizing 830G, you do have, based on, the purchase price, when you purchase it, you do have to factor in the limitations or restrictions relative to the 830G component. And as we know, the more mixed income units that are required, that tends to drive up the density or increase the density. So with the purchase price for this property and the compensation, so to speak, for the housing opportunity units under 830G, to make this viable, that's where the density came in at 40. And then with the parcel being the size, Mr. Chairman, that's, I think, what resulted in the proposed site plan. Right. That's the proposed site plan. My question is about the text amendment. Oh, I apologize. But so I understand how the math is derived in order to sort of reverse engineer, if you will, no pun intended, and apologies to the engineers. The output of a parcel under 830G to figure out how to maximize the number of units
for the developer on that particular piece of land. My question is, with that background of understanding that that's what happened here, right? The developer, the applicant here, identified a parcel of opportunity and then figured out sort of what worked under 830G to maximize the number of units and so forth, given space constraints and parking requirements and safety issues and all of that kind of stuff. But what is the justification then of applying that identical specification to any other parcel under a text amendment in this zone of opportunity that is now being proposed in the text amendment?
Well, again, the text amendment, if adopted, and I think we have, as you're well aware, the lowest level is for parking with regard to this particular site development. But as it applies to the text amendment does codify this particular site development. And if somebody found another property within this zone, 600-foot zone of opportunity, I think as you just referred to it, then if they did not meet that height requirement, if they wanted to go higher, they would just do their own text amendment to provide for that to go higher. So I think it's, again, the text amendment has been drafted to apply to this particular site development. Can people utilize this text amendment when it's in effect? Yes. I don't think I've ever seen anybody come in under someone else's zone text amendment under 830G. I just haven't experienced that. Everybody you just draft your own text amendment to comply with your particular site development proposal. So, but you're right, if this text amendment were to be adopted, then people could apply these requirements to a qualifying property.
So what's the point of the text amendment? What's the point of the proposed text amendment?
It's to have, again, it's just to have a set of bulk area requirements and other requirements that apply to the property going forward for financing, whatever it might be. So there's set rules for it that would govern the property going forward. You don't have nonconformities, where if you go to expand something, if you meet the 50 feet now, if your just maximum front setback is 50, if you were at 60 and you wanted to go to 55, since you're meeting the 50, you're okay. But if you're at 60 and then you want to go to 55, it would be non-conforming, right? You don't have any zoning regulations that apply to it. So arguably they're non-conforming buildings, non-conforming parking lots going forward.
Right. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, yeah. So in the grand scheme of things, though, it is non-conforming. I mean, it doesn't conform to the regulations that have been adopted in the town of Fairfield in this residence zone. And so what is the benefit to the town, I suppose, is a better way of putting it. What is the benefit to the town in adopting the proposed text amendment, given the various considerations that we're now sort of fleshing out?
Well, you would have a set of regulations from an enforcement standpoint that would govern this community going forward. So if somebody, subsequent owner, whomever, wanted to make a modification that did not comply with the text amendment, they would have to come back to the commission to do that.
Let me stop you there.
Yes.
So isn't it true, though, that without the text amendment, if we just approve the site plan or the compliance, which I'll get to in a second, and a subsequent owner or even this owner wanted to do something different, they couldn't, because it wouldn't comply with the approved compliance application or site plan. They would have to come back to the commission for approval to make those changes anyway.
Correct.
Okay? So I'm still looking for a benefit to the town of adopting the proposed text amendment.
Well, again, it would have set rules, so if somebody wanted to stay within this framework, that was here, they would just come in and get an over-the-counter zoning permit, presumably. If, for example, somebody wanted to build an accessory structure or whatever, then they would be able to do that if they were in compliance with the zoning regulations. They would just get a building permit because they comply with the zoning regulations. If there are no zoning regulations, if they went to go out, there would be nothing governing it, everything would be non-conforming, then they would have to deal with it as a non-conforming structure, a non-conforming use being expanded arguably, which might require variances or additional zone text amendments so that it would comply with it. So this would be a set of governing regulations going forward for this development on this property.
All right. Very good. Does anyone else have any other questions for Mr. Smith based on the text amendment or the affordability plan? No? Okay. Very good then. I think, Mr. Smith, if you'd like to move forward in your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. I think at this point we would like to get to the specifics with the site development proposal with the application for zoning compliance for the site development plan. I did provide you with the PowerPoint. We do have the aerials that we walked through before. And at this point in our presentation, I would like to turn the presentation over to Mike Petrella from the Huntington Company to walk you through the site specifics. After Mike will hear from bear with me for 1 second. We'll hear from Marcos Reinheimer from the Getz Associates. After Marcos, we'll hear from Mike Galante with traffic, and then finish with Joe Versteeg with fire safety. So, with permission of the chair, I'll introduce and turn it over to Mike. Okay, thank you. I don't know if Emmeline's there.
No.
I am. Do I need to go to the site plan? Where would you like me to be?
Site plan, and well, actually, Mike Petrella from the Huntington Company, if you can unmute him. Hopefully he's one of the many boxes that you have.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
13 is the existing conditions.
Okay, existing conditions? You got it.
Yes. All right. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, my name is Michael Petrella. I'm a licensed land surveyor, licensed professional engineer here in the state of Connecticut, also a member of the Huntington Company. Office is here in Fairfield. As Attorney Smith said from the beginning, we have a piece of property that's 0.65 acres in size. We've got an existing building on it that was built in 1950. It's serviced by all public utilities, sewer, water, gas. And there's two curb cuts, two driveways. One is an entrance and one is an exit onto Beach Road. And in the back of the building, there's paved parking. As we go into the property, on the left, there's a row of deciduous trees, approximately 55 feet high. The back piece, which is residential, there's evergreens as high as 80 feet. And on the right side, again, residential, there's evergreens that go a little bit better than 100 feet tall. Again, this building's been here since 1950. Next sheet, number 14 is the site plan. Back a couple, Emmeline.
Go down or go up?
Yep, that's it there.
Okay.
Okay, the site plan consists of naturally our building, parking underneath, parking on the sides. What I had to do is get the parking lot and the building to drain towards Beach Road. So in the back, I had to elevate the parking area, just under 6 feet, and get the drainage to work so I can empty into an existing catch basin out Beach Road. There's an existing storm sewer that runs down Beach Road that's a 12-inch pipe that goes down to the post road. I've got a series of catch basins. The catch basins will have hoods. The series of catch basins will empty into a stormwater cleaner. It's been used many times here in town by myself and other engineers and contractors. This particular model is distributed by Connecticut Precast Corporation, which is right here local in Monroe. And to lessen the impact of the drainage, I have a series of 4 foot high, 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot concrete galleys surrounded by stone. And I submitted a set of computations that were reviewed by the engineering department. I looked at the various 24-hour storms. I examined the 2-year to the 100-year storm. There'll be no increase in runoff. Again, I'm using 117 units of the 4x4 precast units, and I have a 6-inch pipe high-level overflow that will empty into an existing catch basin out in the street. The existing building right now, they have a series of leader drains that empty right out into the parking lot, and they have one catch basin dry well in the back left-hand corner. On this proposal, the back left-hand corner, we're going to build a new catch basin dry well, and we're also going to put a proposed planted garden around that area. I have a recent letter from Laura Pooley, who first reviewed my drainage comps back in February at the code enforcement meeting, and she had let's see. She had 9 particular comments, and in her recent review, which was as of Monday, she wrote an email to Jim Went and said she reviewed my drainage computations revised as of February 12, 2020, and it says that the drainage system is designed and revised, made to the system now, addresses my concerns. As I noted, items 1 through 5 have been addressed satisfactorily. And then she goes on in the next paragraph, she says, she had a question regarding item 6 as to whether we introduced green infrastructure into the plans. I talked to her first thing this morning after I read her email and explained to her, and that proposed catch basin dry well in the back left-hand corner, I could convert that into a rain garden, and she was satisfied with that. Unfortunately, we didn't have the time to present to planning and zoning a revised plan showing that, but we certainly will for the next meeting. She goes on to say in her comments from Monday that items 7 and 8 will be addressed by the building permit process. And in her item number 9, she mentions a traffic study, which will be presented by Mike Galante later today. It's, again, my opinion and also Laura Pooley's opinion that we've done our job by not getting any additional water draining off of the property that was existed. And in doing my study for the existing drainage, I assumed that the property was a lawn area. I discounted the existing building and existing parking lot, and the proposed runoff was lessened very significantly. My next sheet on the set of plans was a planting plan. Again, we've got some proposed planting in the front, in the back left-hand corner. It's our opinion that the existing trees on the adjacent properties provided good screening. My next sheet, number 16, was a sightline profile, which, again, the traffic engineer, Mike Galante, will go over. Next plan was a soil sedimentation control plan. And then my last plan, which is 18, was my detail sheet. Above and beyond, I'm not sure if Jim included this or Emmeline included. I had a lighting photometric plan prepared by one of the people we do work with. They're called Illuminate. I gave a set of my plans, and I've got back from them, dated July 8th, 2020, a lighting plan, a photometric plan that shows proposed lighting, which will be underneath the building and also on the right side wall of the building. And the wall-mounted lights will be, let's see, I think it was, WPs will be 9 feet from the asphalt surface. And again, that plan was submitted for your review. Any questions? I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Ms. Harrigan, can you stop sharing so I can see? Thanks. Any members of the commission have any? Mr. Petrola? I think the upshot, Mr. Petrola, is that all the runoff from the site is being controlled either through the connection to the town sewer and through recharge. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
November of 2019, we had went to the sewer commission and got approval to tie into the sanitary sewer.
Right. Okay. And that tie-in was not just for the property, but that was with respect to this proposal for this building with this engineering plan.
That's correct. Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Very good. Okay. And we'll hear about. I noticed on one of your slides you had a like a sightline plan, or at least there was a legend, right?
Yes.
You're deferring to Mr. Galante to speak to that?
Yes, because he has multiple charts and explanations, and he's the traffic man.
Sure. Okay. And any adverse impact to the environment on the land or the surrounding adjacent lots?
In my opinion, no. Again, we're collecting 95% of the water and bringing it into the system that we proposed. In our system, in the drainage chain, we've got a stormwater cleaner that takes, I think it's 85–90% of the hydrocarbons out before they even get into the underground gallery system. So it's a proven system. It's accepted most towns here in Connecticut.
Okay. Very good. Any other commissioners have any other questions for Mr. Paterno? Okay. Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Paterno. Mr. Smith?
Very well.
One question.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Francis, yes. What? You're muted.
I was late clicking in, sorry. Does this state-of-the-art cleansing system require ongoing maintenance, or is it just internal, permanently?
No,
It takes
yeah.
90% of
No,
the
it'll require maintenance, and it's pretty simple. It's in the beginning, you have to check it every 6 months. You pull a manhole, you pull off a manhole that's degrade, and you clean out the grit, and you take it away, dispose of it in a proper manner, and then 6 months later you check it again, and then you could tell if it needs to be done either more or less. Most systems, after the first year, you can find out how often you go, and it depends on the winters. If the winters are bad, then it's probably going to be cleaned at least twice a year. And it's pretty simple. It's a manhole comes off, and it's cleaned similar to how you clean out a catch basin.
And the owner is responsible to do that?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, very good. Mr. Smith?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I think Commissioner Braun has a question, and I just unmuted her.
Okay, thanks. I don't see her. Very good. Commissioner Braun?
He's on the phone. Yeah.
She's on the phone, yeah.
Okay. So Commissioner Braun, can you hear us? All right. Ms. Harrigan, how did you understand that she wanted to?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Commissioner Braun.
Good. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Good. Okay. My laptop died, so I had to call in by myself. So I have a question about the trees. I saw something in the code review about the tree warden wanted trees, 9 sycamores, 4 oak trees preserved. Are those all being preserved? And does that satisfy the police comment about sightline? I don't know if you're the right person to be asking.
The trees. Let me just go back to the comments from November or February rather. Trees. Tree warden. Most likely the ones in the street line. Yeah. Interesting. I think the tree warden's comments, his first comment was he said 2 Oaks Long Beach Road, and it's really one. It's one. It's not 2. There's only one. There's a 36, 38-inch oak. As you face our property, it's the leftmost entrance just to the right of that. That's where that big oak is, and that's staying.
And this is Jason Spath, Chairman. I'd like to answer one of the questions that you have. I believe the sycamores that he is talking about along the property between 111 and 131, those are actually located on the adjoining property. So of course we will not be touching them, and they will be protected so no damage is done to those during construction.
Thank you for the clarifying comment.
I have another question about the building height. Is it possible to show can you hear me still? Is it possible to show a rendering of the building with this came up in a couple of other cases. It looks like it's all alone out in the middle of nowhere. Can you give us a rendering next time of the building as it appears next to the adjacent houses? I know that on one side there's a dental office, and on the other side there are a couple of houses. Can you show the building in its proximity to those houses as well as the height in relation to those houses?
I believe if we work together with the architect, we can come up with a rendering. I'm assuming John can talk about that a little bit, but the two of us together, I'm sure we can come up with a rendering to show the building height versus the adjoining ones.
That would be helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for engineering? Good. Mr. Smith?
Yes, Chris Smith for the record. I think we have Marcos Reinheimer up next, or John Geddes. Either one from Geddes Associates walk through the architecture.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Marcos Reinheimer. I'm the Architectural Department Administrator for Geddes Associates, Inc. But I will pass it on to Mr. John Geddes. He's the lead architect.
Again, feedback in the line, so if you're not speaking, please mute your line. Mr. Reinheimer, audio on the computer or on your phone?
It's a tablet.
Okay. Somebody's got another line open in conjunction with their computer.
Please unmute Mr. John Geddes. He will proceed with the project presentation, and you can mute myself.
Thank you. Mr. Geddes?
Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, and I'm going to be a little awkward with this because it's the first time I'm on this type of setting. My name is again John Geddes for the record. I'm a principal with the architectural firm of Geddes Associates, Inc., and with offices in Bridgeport. And I'll try to, I've been sitting here listening to all of the questions and some of the comments, so I'll try to aside from the presentation on the building itself, try to answer some of those questions that have been raised. Basically, as stated, the building is a podium-style building with a architectural design that's meant to be contemporary colonial. There were a number of reasons why the design was established the way it was and why the building was placed the way it was. The building placement was done with the input of the Fire Marshal's office that we met with and reviewed our initial plans, and we again modified them to meet their requirements. But for the most part, we have a building where the ground level is set up for parking. We only have the main entrance area that we have the elevator, the mail room, which includes a closet for packages. The elevator has been designed to accommodate the emergency. It's designed for size for emergency personnel to use a stretcher. The meters, there's a meter room for the electrical, so that's interior. Each one of these units will be individually metered. So we created an indentation within the facade to accommodate the gas meters. Both the meters for the water and the electrical are in separate rooms, all within that main entrance lobby. To the back of the building, we have we created a recreational area for an outdoor brick patio, and we have a trash compactor room. Above this level, we have 4 stories, as stated, of residential units. The units are 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom. There is, as stated, a number of them are for the affordable program, and those units, the affordable units, have been dispersed equally throughout all the floors. Each one of the units, basically we have one-bedroom units that range in the size of approximately 700, or average of 730 square feet. And the two-bedroom units average 1,050 square feet. The one-bedroom units basically have a kitchen, dining, living, bath, and the self-contained laundry facilities. The two bedrooms have two baths and same setup for dining, living, and kitchen area. Each one of the floors has been equipped with one storage area, one storage room to accommodate self-storage lockers for convenience of the tenants. And the building is, as stated, 4 stories above the podium. I believe the chairman had questions regarding reasons for height and why this height was selected. Basically, there are 2 factors that go into the design of these structures. One is obviously the number of parking spaces that are available for the number of residential units that are being introduced. The second part has to do with the cost of construction. Obviously, right now, the way the codes read, you cannot go higher than 4 stories above an uncombustible area, and by code, living space above the parking area needs to be non-combustible, and therefore the floors above it are wood framed, which is the least expensive way to construct. We did do a number of designs for the structure, and most of them were designed to comply with the maximum 50-foot height of the building. But to do that, it turned out that we basically were winding up with flat roofs. And the decision was that it would be more appropriate to come up with a design that was more in keeping with the style of the area in Fairfield that we were dealing with. And that's how the facade was reached. Basically, we're proposing the vinyl shakes and trim. The idea is to try to make the building as maintenance-free as possible. And then there were a number of other concerns that we attempted to address. And I think I'm running low on my battery as well on the iPad, but I'll try to cover all the points. For the most part, there were issues that we needed to add to or resolve. There is right now we've introduced as I said, on the ground level, a trash and compactor area or room, which means that every floor will have a trash room with 2 chutes leading down to the ground level. These chutes, one will be for recycles, the other one will be for trash, which will be compacted at the compaction room. The other factor that we needed to take into consideration was the condensers for the HVAC units. These units have been designed so that they're all self-contained. They all have each will have its own central air system, hot air system, hot air and obviously air conditioning coil and then because of limited space around the building and the type of building design that we're dealing with, there was an issue as to where to locate the condensers. And, basically the condensers are located on a portion of the roof that's been cut out and screened with access via the front stairwell. The other issue that we dealt with was the issue of deliveries. You know, basically, as stated before, the building was placed in a manner whereby the fire department felt that it was okay for them to be able to pull in alongside, you know, the building and be able to, small vehicles, be able to, you know, maneuver them on site by backing into the other driveway area, otherwise just back out. But for general deliveries such as UPS or FedEx or what have you, you know, basically, as stated before, we do have a mail room, we do have a package room. The vehicles can pull alongside the right side of the building and be able to back up into the other driveway in front of the building to be able to pull out. Let's see. If there's anything else I can add, but I stated emergency vehicles, meters, AC condensers. So unless there's any other questions, I think I'm through with my presentation. Can anybody hear me, or?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I was on.
So if there's any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer them.
Commissioner
Francis?
What about people moving in and out and plumbers and electricians coming? Are they going in that one parking space too where FedEx is going to deliver?
Well, for the most part, again, obviously that's always an issue because, you know, moving in and out, that tends to be one day in a year of an apartment. In this particular case, again, the way that the building was positioned, the moving vehicle would be pulling off the street and going to the right side of, you know, the driveway on the right side of the building. So it wouldn't be on the street, but, you know, again, it's there, you know, and any of these type of structures or programs, it's always difficult to come up with a parking space that would accommodate a moving van. It's just not feasible. But again, the inconvenience is for a few hours on one particular day, on one particular year, because all of these residential units would have yearly leases. So if anybody is to move in or out, it would be within that 1 year period for that particular unit. And chances, I mean, the way that the leases are, and, you know, when we're talking about 40 residential units, it normally takes about, you know, 3 months to go through the lease process of occupancy of the building. So you're not having 40, you know, residential units moving in all at the same time or moving out all at the same time. There's you know, there are, you know, lease programs that are basically a minimum of 1 year.
Now, how wide is this driveway?
So I believe it's 24 feet wide.
Like a street. And you just have the one driveway for in and out, right?
That's correct. We originally had two driveways, but it was decided that because of the traffic patterns on the road, that it wasn't. It was you know, it was decided that one. And again, this was with input of the fire marshal's office and the police department.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Levy.
Back northeast.
Can you start over? You were muted.
Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Geddes, I saw there's a bike rack on the plans for the northeast corner. Is that definitely part of the plan? And also, is there any plan for bike storage?
Well, you know, there's a couple of things that I don't know, because we'll get into that in the details when the construction documents are prepared. But what we've been doing with these type of developments is trying to accommodate bike racks, trying to accommodate recreational items such as, what do they do with golf clubs or tennis rackets or, gym equipment. And that's why the creation of every single floor, as I stated, has a room, and within that room it has, self-storage lockers to accommodate some of these issues. On the ground level, we always try to now put in the bicycle racks and also the electric charging stations for the hybrid vehicles or electric vehicles. So obviously on the upper levels to try to accommodate bicycles, unless they're the type that fold, which many apartment rent or leasers tenants will buy. For the most part, this consideration was, the owners did want to provide the ability for, storage facilities for some of these items.
Thank you.
Does the building have a generator?
No, it doesn't. And again, the issue is we always have these, it's more of, okay, where do you locate it? How do you baffle the noise when you have limited space? If it's to be introduced, in some cases we've introduced them into the roof, but to introduce them into the roof, you need to have clearances and structural supports, because once they, if anybody has a generator or, it's when it goes off, it's very difficult to baffle the sound. So it's but in this particular case, there is just not it's not feasible to introduce a generator.
And what about the HVAC, cooling units and the like?
If you look at the plans, what I did is, again, you'll see, I don't know if there's the ability to put the elevations on, but what I did is I designed a cutout from the pitched roof where there's a flat section of roof.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the plan the site plan, the roof plan and the site plan.
Right, that's it. You see that there's a screened area there. So a platform was designed for that location. It's designed in a way that it can't be seen from ground levels, but and all the condensers are at that location. For servicing the stairwell on the front side entrance will go up to the attic, and then there'll be a corridor in the attic leading to that location. It was designed in a way that it would accommodate, it was centrally located so that the cooling lines would be able to, go from each unit to them.
Right.
I have a question.
Sure, Commissioner.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks. So the number of bedrooms I'm calculating is 16 times 1 bedroom, that's 16 bedrooms. 24 units times 2 bedrooms, that's 48. Total 64 bedrooms, but only 55 parking spaces. Do you anticipate overflow parking to park up and down Beach Road? I don't think there's any limit on parking there.
Again, one of the things that we've been looking at, and when we're charged with designing the structures in the areas located close to the downtown, is we look at the ability for some, right now the trend is that we're getting a lot of New Yorkers coming up to Fairfield County, and many of them they'll take stay to the train into Fairfield and walk to the locations near the train station. So the thought is that the number of parking spaces are just not as necessary as they used to be.
So if there are overflow from the 64 bedrooms into the, that won't, let's say the 55 spaces under the building won't accommodate them, I assume they would be parking on Beach Road. There's no other ancillary place they could park, right?
Well, I would assume that, again, the idea is, how many vehicles will this building generate? And, it's always difficult to tell. Just because you have 2 bedrooms, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have, 2 vehicles, but the possibility is there. And I would assume that, if there isn't adequate parking on site, then yes, they'll try to find, some way to park their vehicles.
Mr. Chairman? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I had a couple lined up. I could wait if you want, but
No.
did you say all spaces are under the building? And did you, I don't remember if you mentioned this. Does the height of the parking lot?
The majority of the parking
Yeah.
spaces are under the building, so it, but yes, they are.
And does the height of that parking lot allow delivery or emergency vehicles?
Yeah, again, height of buildings, obviously are always a problem because, again, there are, the limitations we have to deal with. But throughout the, the areas of Connecticut, if you go into any parking garage, the standard is 8 foot. And if you, generally, in some areas inside the garage are going to be higher than 8 feet, but the average is a minimum of 8 foot, which is adequate for a certain number of vehicles. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get a fire, engine there, but there is the ability for, emergency vehicles to get access to the inside. But again, because the emergency, the foreseen emergency way to accommodate any emergency on any floor would be through the main entrance and, the elevator. And so, emergency vehicles, even though, yes, they could go into the garage area the same way that a vehicle would go to any garage level. But in this particular case, I don't see that there's going to be a tremendous need for it.
So is an 8 foot ceiling in the underneath the building for the parking lot?
The minimum height is 8 foot. In some areas, it winds up being 9 feet.
Okay. And so that would then accommodate an ambulance or a delivery truck or a UPS truck or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, any truck that's, again, it's the 8 foot is, as I said, is a standard height for, garages throughout the state.
And did you mention if there's extra spaces for delivery trucks in the front? I'm just looking at your rendering. It looks like you said the driveway was 24 feet. Does that allow for a delivery or an emergency vehicle to park at the entrance, or is there a space for them to park other than in the driveway at the entrance?
I believe that and again, I wasn't that involved with the parking aspect of it, but I do believe that there was one parking space that was being, designated for some of these concerns. But for the most part, any major delivery, generally it's done within a matter of minutes, and it would, most likely wind up on the right side of the building. The vehicle would park there, the delivery would take place, and the vehicle would, leave. I think I may lose everybody because my battery it says low battery, but we'll see.
Is there a space specifically for deliveries, or you're just saying where would they park then? I'm confused.
Yeah,
I can't tell from the picture. Yeah.
The site plan does not, to my eye, show a designated, delivery vehicle parking area. There are a number of spaces that are on the surface, not under the building, and what looks like 2 handicap spaces. in front of the front door. But I don't think that a delivery vehicle would pull in along the southeast side of the building and block the road, block ingress and egress while delivering a parcel. I think the likelihood is they would come in, make the left-hand turn, park in front of the building, come in, drop off the package, and then back, do a K-turn along that alley. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the way that you anticipate deliveries to happen?
Yes, as I said, the fact is that deliveries take a matter of minutes. It's not a long term, so there's yes, there is no designated location for delivery trucks, because again, it's
Where is
not
that?
I'm sorry?
Did you say there is a designated area?
There is none.
No, right, okay.
Right.
Mr.
There is
Chairman?
none.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Chris Smith, for the record. We can certainly between now and September 15th designate a space in the front, and it being probably in that area, that's what we were talking about, the client was looking into. One of those spaces in the front portion if you were to make a left-hand turn. But we can do that for the next, for the continued hearing, and specifically designate that for the commission. And as to the parking spaces, I just would like to point out, if I may, that the regs provide for a minimum of 1.25 spaces per unit. It's not by bedroom, and that per unit with this bedroom mix is, in the opinion of my client, will work. And I know in other developments that 1.25 seems to be the number that does work for the multifamily when you do have a mix with the ones and twos. So, and if you, and actually it's like 1.375 or something that's provided, but more importantly, 125 generally is found to work, and of course nobody wants to build something if people aren't able to park in parking spaces that are going to be designated for them. But I just want to point that out there. There might have been a little, maybe we weren't clear enough on that, so and apologize for that we weren't, but did want to point that out with Commissioner Braun's questions. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. Now, one of the since we're talking about parking, one of the things I believe that the plan calls for is to eliminate a number of parking spaces on the street to accommodate sightline distances. Could you just talk for a moment about that, and also whether in that vein you will be allocating any of the on-site parking spaces for members of the public to replace, if you will, the number of parking spaces on street that are proposed to be eliminated? And also whether you sought approval for that from the parking authority, from the police department or other authorities having jurisdiction of those parking spaces.
That hasn't been sought yet, but what I would like to do, Mr. Chairman, is Mr. Galante, our traffic engineer, is slated to be next in queue, and I think that he'll be discussing those types of issues in his presentation.
Now, if there's, my battery is dying. If there's, I mean, I'll be more than glad to answer any other question you may have before it dies. Otherwise, I'm going to have to close down, I guess.
John, you could always call in. I think you have a call-in number.
I'll have to look at that.
Yeah.
We're winding down anyway.
The other option is to plug it in.
And unfortunately, I don't have the charger here or the cord here, so I don't usually. But anyway, again, if there's any questions, I still have. They say it says 10% battery remaining, so.
That's fine. I don't have anything further. And Ms. Harrigan, if you can stop sharing the screen, I could see other members of the commission to see if anybody has any questions. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Geddes?
I have a couple more if nobody else does at the moment.
Mr. Braun, fire away.
So right now, there's no dedicated space for deliveries or moving. So anybody moving in or receiving a delivery right now there's nowhere for the delivery truck to park unless there's an empty slot underneath the building.
So, Mr. Smith, this is Wagner, Commissioner Braun. Attorney Smith just represented that the applicant is going to allocate one of the spaces that are in front of the building, not under the building, as a delivery vehicle space.
But those two spaces are handicapped, aren't they, in front of the building?
There are four there. There are two handicap and two regular, and then on the other side, there are three plus spaces that are not under the building.
Okay, I didn't realize there were any spaces in front not under the building. One other question not related to parking. The town engineer recommended a whole lot of green construction suggestions, like green roof, green walls, things like that. Was any of that incorporated into this?
No, the only consideration that we have with these type of buildings is to make them as energy efficient as possible. We tend to introduce items such as, more insulation, low-E thermal windows, but again, there's limitations for this type of building and limitations on the site. So no special features have been introduced.
Last question. One of the code review, I don't know if it was fire police or somebody, they said they don't like keeping garbage inside the house. Inside the building. I'm not sure why. If it's a fire hazard or something else. Was that dealt with the way you're handling it, or no?
Well, yes, because what you have is that unlike other facilities where they have the trash containers outdoors and you wind up with always a mess, and then you have people, carting their household trash down the elevator into outside and so forth. In this particular case, as I stated before, what we've been doing in all these buildings is providing a compacting system, which means that there's two chutes that go from the ground level to the top level, and at every single floor there's a room which is handicap accessible, and there are two doors that access the two chutes. All of this is fire rated, and it's all per code requirements. And what happens is that the recyclables go into one chute, and they drop down to a bin at the trash room, and then the others dump down into a compactor, and the trash is compacted. It's picked up either daily or every other 2-3 days, depending on the volume. And it's taken away. So there isn't loose trash. It's all, with the exception of the recyclables, it's all compacted.
Yeah, I just see it. It said under the fire section, it said never a good idea to store garbage inside. So it's not being stored inside, I guess?
No, it's not. And keep in mind that the podium construction means that the first level or the first deck above the garage is steel and concrete, and the trash room that we're talking about, you have fireproofing, you have concrete above, and then you got masonry walls surrounding it. There is a overhead rolling door where it provides access for removal of the compacted material and the recyclables. But no, this is not loose. As I said, this is not loose trash. This is it's trash that goes through a process and cubed to be able to be pulled out.
Thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I think Mr. Batula from Huntington was motioning to try to speak, and I've unmuted him. If that's okay with you?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Batula.
I think I did mention in my presentation that Laura Pooley's email late yesterday afternoon, I read that this morning and got back to her. She had a question on whether green infrastructure has been incorporated into the plans, and I did go back and forth with her on emails and explain to her that that planting area as in the back left-hand corner, if I change that to a rain garden, if that would be acceptable to her. And she indeed says yes. And again, because we had the meeting tonight, and again, I got her comments late Friday, Monday afternoon, and talked to her this morning. I'll get that on a revised plan, and hopefully she'll be able to take a look at that and get another letter back to the P&Z department.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Gass? Okay. Mr.
Yes, Chris Smith for the record, and we will have a response relative to the question with deliveries and whatnot. Next up, Mr. Chairman, is Mike Galante, our traffic engineer, to provide a summary of his traffic report that was submitted with the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Mike Galante, Hardesty in Hanover. I tend to be the last guy at the end of the night, and I don't mean to rush a presentation, but I'll give you detailed overview.
There now and take you out of the John, so just press it.
I hear somebody else's voice. Anyhow, the graphics that I'm going to show you, and Emily, I'm starting on, I guess it's figure 17, or the PowerPoint 17. All the graphics and tables in my presentation are in the traffic report, which is dated April of this year. So there's nothing new that you haven't seen, and I'll just run through them as a summary, and I can certainly answer questions tonight before 8 o'clock or back, I guess, in September if we need to. Figure 1 just gives you a representation of where the site is, obviously on Beach Road, between Post Road, which is 1 on the left side of the screen or the figure, and Old Post Road, which is on the right side, on an angle to the right. Next slide, which is figure 2 in the report, basically zooms into the site location and shows the exact location of the site. Beach Road is a road that's 40 feet wide. It's a 1 lane in each direction, parking in some sections. You can see from this graphic, this photo, that there's a fair amount of commercial development around the site. There's 1 residential building, if you will, a home to the southeast of the site itself, Beach and Old Post Road, diagonally across from the Old Town Hall building, if you will. This graphic shows you that all of these commercial buildings have quite a bit of off-street parking to serve each of these buildings in the area. Off-street parking today, and we will continue to provide off-street parking in the future. That's the 50 spaces that we would, 55 spaces we were talking about. This graphic also gives you a good indication of the parking restrictions on Beach Road. Those circles and those letters match up to those signs in the legend on the bottom left corner, which is basically no parking here to corner or no parking here, whatever it might be. So a good portion of Beach Road today has on-street parking restrictions, and it's in place really to accommodate the driveways that are already there, you know, whether it's the gas station on the corner or the medical building, advanced radiology on the other corner, the 2 medical buildings, the funeral home across from our site, basically, and access to the church, the First Church parking lot, and the Irish Club that's behind everything, if you will. Our recommendation is to do the same, and I'll touch on that at the end, and I want to make sure I have time to touch on the sight lines that the chairman mentioned. We certainly did work on that, but I'll get back to that. The next figure, which is 19, we conducted actual traffic counts before the virus, fortunately, back at the very end of January, normal traffic conditions, schools were open. We did these counts from 7 to 10 in the morning on a weekday, in this case a Thursday, which is one of the busiest days of the week other than Friday night. And again, from 4 to 7 in the afternoon, we counted Beach Road at Post Road, opposite Round Hill Road, and Beach Road at Old Post Road near the town hall, as someone said before the campus. We identified these volumes by turn and movements. We counted pedestrians, and I certainly know the area, living in town. We identified the peak hours from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning, slightly off from the typical commuter peak, and 4:30 to 5:30 in the afternoon. And those volumes, which are the highest recorded volumes, were the basis for our traffic study and our analyses. You can go to the next chart if you don't mind, Emmeline. This is just a summary of the volumes, which is table 1 in the traffic report. It'll give you a very good indication. The afternoon obviously is the higher volumes, so I'll just refer to those for the moment. Post Road has as many as 2,200 vehicles. That's a two-way volume in a 1 hour period, 4:30 to 5:30. Beach Road has, 800 vehicles in the morning and 650 vehicles in the afternoon, again, during a 1 hour period. Old Post Road carries, 800 to 900 vehicles, again, two-way during the peak hours. So the level of traffic volume is Post Road is certainly the busiest. Beach Road is similar to Old Post Road. And we all know Post Road is a busy road, without a doubt. Beach Road has volume connecting the two roads and all the different uses on Old Post Road or Post Road itself. And Old Post Road is certainly a parallel road to Post Road, and I will say that Old Post Road is a busy road, certainly during peaks, when motorists do avoid the Post Road, and the Post Road people are avoiding I-95. So it's a relationship that we've discussed before in other developments in town, and we certainly recognize that. The next chart, if you can, is table 3 in the report. It's a summary of the accident data. This accident data is available. It was obtained a couple of months ago. We have the accident data from Connecticut DOT for Route 1, it's a state highway, and from the Fairfield Police Department for Beach Road and Old Post Road, and obviously the intersections as they relate to whether it's a state road or a town road. Summary, Road had a total of 5 accidents during a 3-year period, which is the standard data that we would collect from any agency. One of the 5 accidents was a motorist hitting a deer on Beach Road, so let's take that out of the equation. One accident was either a side swipe or a car hitting a car in the same direction. It's not clear, but 3 accidents were related to angled accidents, and I would say that's related to driveways, potentially, or a car pulling out of a parking space, for example. Beach Road is just about 1,000 feet long from Old Post to Post Road. It has 7 driveways. 6 of those driveways are commercial. So the number of accidents related to a driveway is quite low. So, we look at sight lines for existing driveways, and some of these driveways don't have the sight distance that we're going to be providing at our proposed driveway. We're eliminating a driveway into our site and having 1 two-way driveway. And other driveways don't have any, the cars are parked near the driveways. So I look at this as a positive as far as operating characteristics of the road, and we've certainly analyzed that. And I don't mean to be going fast, but I want to make sure we cover everything because it's a long time until the next meeting. Table 4. Thank you, Emmeline, is in the report itself. It's the traffic estimates for 40 units of this type of development. It comes from the ITE handbook. It's a document that every town uses, every traffic engineer uses, and certainly Connecticut DOT expects us to use, and we use it here in town. You've seen me refer to this document many times. It's a document that provides lane use trip generation rates for probably 1,000 different types of lane uses at this point. We've used that, and 40 units will generate 15 trips during the morning peak hour and 18 trips during the afternoon peak hour. And we provided this information really for the first time on a weekday condition. This development will generate about 218 trips, or 109 trips in, 109 trips out over a 24-hour period. And the majority of that traffic would likely be between 6 a.m. and maybe 10 p.m. on a typical weekday condition. We provide that information. The analysis is based on peak hours, where we put this traffic, 15 and 18 trips, on top of the peak volumes we identified as far as the traffic counts at the 2 intersections at either end of Beach Road itself. You can go to the next slide. This is just a representation of the distribution patterns for site traffic to and from our site itself. We estimated that 85% of our traffic will come and go towards Post Road. I believe that's a fair assessment. And 15% will go to and from Old Post Road, although I think it might actually be lower than that and more traffic going towards Post Road itself. The next slide will give you a summary of the traffic related to the site at the driveway, 2 intersections. And I'll just reference quickly the Old Post Road, Beach Road intersection. We had 3 vehicles during the morning peak hour and during the afternoon peak hour. And I reference that because that's a busy intersection. It's always stop sign control. I understand how it operates. Certainly at the end of the day, it's very busy. And the different activities along Old Post Road that we have accounted for in the traffic volumes itself. And this development, it really adds 3 trips to that intersection, and just want to keep that in mind. The next slide, if you don't mind, Emmeline, is the my famous level of service table. This one's fairly simple. It's only 3 intersections, including the side driveway. It gives you levels of service, measured delay. Fortunately, today it's a synchro computer model. When you do 13, 14, 15 intersections, this is very handy and very helpful. It's a program that, while the town doesn't use it, because it's a special program, the state of Connecticut expects us to use this program. And that's how we measure impact from a development. When you compare a no build to a build condition, and I've summarized this table obviously from the report. The difference is it tells you the impact of a development of this type and size and need for mitigation. The columns that say no is simply referring to levels of service remain the same. And I will acknowledge that if you had a level of service F, which I think we only have 1 on this table, there's no rating below F. But in this case, we look at the vehicle queuing and we look at the increase in delay. And I'm looking at Beach Road at Old Post Road, and that we're increasing delay for a vehicle by 4.8 seconds. And I just give you as a reference, that's the southbound approach at that intersection. And we can chat about the intersection a little bit more. The single intersection of Post and Round Hill and Beach operates at overall level of service C. And I will reference that during the afternoon peak hour, the 1 lane under the railroad bridge, which is a narrow 1 lane coming to the Post Road, and certainly an upgrade towards the single intersection, operates in this condition at level service E, and motors do experience delays at that location. There's no feasible fix to that approach because of the structure that's overhead at that location. But I just point that out. Next slide. This slide is, and this was referenced a little bit before about sightlines. Mr. Chairman, I know you always like to ask me these questions, and we always try to provide the information, certainly. Past experience, we were following criteria by Connecticut DOT as far as the number of samples, and we have since increased that based on discussions with town engineer in Fairfield and the Connecticut DOT, the Office of the State Traffic Administration, OSTR. You may have heard that term before. And what we now do on all our projects, certainly in Fairfield and everywhere else, we put the radar machine on the side of the road, and we leave it out there for 8 days, and we measure the speed of every car, vehicle passing that location in front of our site, actually. And we actually measure the speed, and we use the 85th percentile speed of motorists because it's slightly above average as far as the distance that you would obtain. And we recorded the speed of, I think, 17,000 vehicles. So that's certainly more than the 50 vehicles we were using in the past. And I will tell you that we originally did the 50 samples in each direction before we switched to the radar machine as opposed to radar gun. And the results are basically exactly the same. So I just point that out as a point of interest. I thought that was very interesting. But we based the posted speed limit on Beach Road is 25 miles per hour. We actually measured 29 miles per hour, and we used not the posted speed limit, but the 85th percentile speed to determine site distance, which the Huntington company plotted for us, put it on the plan, and submitted it to the town for review. I'm sure by the engineering office, which I believe really hasn't reviewed it just yet. That's my understanding. We need, it's desirable, as the wording would be, 319 feet of site distance. It's called intersection site distance would be desirable at the driveway. And there was a reference to the oak tree before. That's if you come out of our driveway, which is the driveway closest to the beach, closest to Old Post Road, is a large 36-inch oak tree, I think between the sidewalk and the curb on Beach Road. Our sideline is actually in front of that tree, and fortunately, we would not be suggesting cutting down that tree to gain a sideline. We measure our sideline 15 feet back, and we measured in each direction, and there is some parking on Beach Road, both north and south of our site itself. And in order to provide that site distance, we would request from, I guess, the police commission, thank you very much, removal of about 6 spaces, and I say about because it depends on the number of cars that may be parking, and there is setbacks from driveways where you shouldn't be parking, so it's about 6 spaces. It may actually be less when you take credit for an existing driveway that you shouldn't be parking next to at this point anyhow. What this does, it's similar to what occurs at some of the driveways on Beach Road, and some of the driveways don't have any restriction of parking near its driveway. We provide this sight line, which we can, by removal of parking. It's a very standard procedure that we go through. My opinion is that, I'm not suggesting we don't remove the parking, but the accident data and the number of accidents and the volume of traffic on Beach Road indicate that this road operates quite well with minimal negative impacts such as accidents at the driveways based on current conditions. And the driveway today to our site, which does have activity, didn't have any identified accidents at the driveway, even though there were events and parties and so on day and evenings and weekends. And we didn't take any credit for traffic that may have been on the site prior to this application. So in essence, I have one more chart, and I'll give you a very quick summary. If you can get to this table, table 7, and this is a table that simply shows you the total volume by intersection, the 2 intersections included in the study area. We add our site traffic at each intersection, and we provide the percent increase in traffic due to the site traffic added to the intersection. And you will see that in all the cases, AM and PM, 2 intersections, it's 0.5% of increase in traffic, and that happens to be the growth factor provided by ConnDOT is 0.6% per year without any development. So it's just general traffic, and that's pre-virus days, by the way. The virus has certainly had an impact on traffic conditions. All of these analyses were pre-virus days, but I can tell you we can, and not in this case, but in this, we can provide 2020 volumes based on historical data and data from ConnDOT, and in our case, data from our files for many locations in the town of Fairfield. But that's not the case here. So we have appropriate data for the study, which was provided to the town for review. And I understand that the town will be reviewing it certainly before the September 15th meeting. And if I could just touch and maybe summarize very quickly, because I see I have 5 minutes, which is my standard, 5 minutes left at the end of the hearing in Fairfield, but it's usually 11 o'clock. I don't really see any adverse impacts from this development on area roadways. We can accommodate the traffic. The minimal traffic increase can be accommodated on the roads. Yes, there are delays at the Old Post Road, Beach Road intersection today. We considered, maybe modifying pavement arrangement at the intersection, but keeping stop sign control. I wouldn't dare recommend a traffic signal because I know what the reaction would be, even if it was warranted. But we decided to leave it as one lane approach at each of the approaches to the intersection and maintain the stop sign control. That's a pretty detailed, quick summary, and I can certainly answer questions now or when we return in September.
Well, thanks. And I really don't think that there is time here for us to go through a meaningful, dialogue in terms of the questions for your report. I do have, I would though like for you to just comment on my question earlier about the elimination of the parking spaces on Beach Road, whether you've sought approval for that as of yet, whether there's going to be some accommodation on site to provide for spaces, replacement spaces, if you will, as we've seen in some other proposals.
Yes.
Yeah. And then lastly, I'm a little. I was surprised, frankly, to see that the sight line required is 319 and the sight line available is 319.
No, that's a very fair question. And if the DOT percent tells us you need 319 feet for a sight line, you show 319 feet because that's required. That's what's needed. And the reason for that is, and I've had the same discussion with DOT where we've provided, 500 feet of sight distance when we need 319. I'm not saying 500 is the number here. And the state actually tells us to take the 500 off and just show the 319, which is required or desirable. You can use any term you want.
Okay.
So that's what we have to maintain is the 319 feet. And that's why it's shown that way.
So in actuality, when you eliminate the parking or other obstructions that you propose, you actually have a much greater sightline distance than 319 available.
Yes, and you can always remove more parking, for example. I mean, if you want to increase it. But looking at the plan prepared by Huntington, we can see to the Old Post Road intersection.
Yeah.
And we can certainly show a sightline through the intersection. So we have that.
Okay.
Post Road, we're looking towards the gas station, if you will. We have that sight line. So we have a little bit more than 319 feet, but we show the 319 based on discussions with DOT for many, many projects. And as you know, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
The other question is we have not gone to the police committee. I mean, that before we have a project that's been through, in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission in town, or really in any town, we will follow up on that because we don't want to ask for something if we don't have a project. I mean, that's kind of the blunt way of putting it. On site, we have actually 5 extra spaces on site. And, we've, with other developments, have offered the extra spaces to the general public. We sign it or could sign it. We haven't made that determination here, but we've certainly had that discussion, the group, the consultant group and the developer, if you will. So I think when we come back on the 15th of September, we will make that a firm, yes, we will provide 5 spaces to the public, but I don't want to make that decision at this point.
Sure.
So we'll follow up with all of those. And the police commission item, and I've been doing work here in town a very long time. I've never gone to the police commission before we finish the P&Z process.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thanks for those.
No, very, very good. I appreciate just following up on those couple of points.
Sure.
And Mr. Smith, Mr. Nguyen will tell you, I earnestly believe that we were going to get through your presentation this evening and have the opportunity for some members of the public, if they wanted to, comment before resuming in September. But, we still have at least Mr. Versteeg, and as well as presumably your summary and conclusion to go. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Chris Smith for the record. If you would like, I think Mr. Versteeg could probably provide a summary of his report at this point in time, briefly, and I'll reserve any conclusion until after rebuttal, if that works. But whatever, it's the chair's discretion in the commission.
No,
I thought we'd finish too, but you always think you're going to finish.
Of course. And I with due respect for Mr. Versteeg, I don't want to rush him. I also don't want to rush our commissioners in the, hearing what he has to say, and also asking him questions about his report and his review of the project and so forth. So we'll just break now and save that for the next meeting. That's
okay. Thank you.
All right. So thank everybody for your attention. We will now adjourn the public hearing. Keep it open. Applicant is still in their presentation, and I'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good night.
Good night.
And just for the record, Mr. Chairman, it is continued till September 15, 2020.
That's correct. September 15, 2020.
Same time.